How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VGWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, are still.
Fenarian.
And Volosel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesbtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesbtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, which is the best place to communicate with the show hosts and other listeners to the show. And you can get there by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the YouTube archive of this podcast.
Yes, indeedy. So, yeah, on the stream today, I'm just going to be playing a bit of Raft, firing up an old save. I think it was actually the save I was playing last time I put it on the show. Because I was going to show off the new No Man's Sky patch. But, for some bizarre reason, I decided it just doesn't want to work. Doesn't want to play the game. I could not get a capture.
Well, No Man's Sky has significantly improved in content and fixed most of the technical bugs that made it a laughingstock. It still has some of them.
Yeah, this is an issue that pops up from time to time with various games. There is something in the graphic settings that will just cause it not to be captured by streaming software that you need to track down and turn off. And in a couple of cases, I've had to go into multiple places and turn it off there. Like Discord. Whatever it was... It was Advanced Effects or something in Discord. There's actually 3 different places you can turn it off in Discord.
Yeah.
Just to drag out the suffering. So instead, we might do the new No Man's Sky patch next week.
If you can get it to work.
Yeah, I should have it sorted out by then, hopefully, maybe. Provided I've got time, because I certainly didn't this week.
This week was a mess for all of us, I think.
Yeah,
it was rough.
It was very,
Ooh,
very
I just put
rough.
a mobile seedling.
Nice. Are you ever going to use it?
Well, no, I've got Enkidu following me around.
Exactly, you don't need it. Everyone's favourite green chicken is the best. So, we might as well dive straight in. My week this week has just been nothing but solid work, so not a whole lot of gaming has happened. I did try to do a little bit of gaming last night, as I saw, there's a special one. And I figured, okay, I'll spend $20 to try this game out, even though I know it's going to be awful. That game is Injustice 2.
Is that the fighting game?
Yeah. And
why would you do
that to yourself?
Because I don't know. I guess I hate myself.
Well, it's not as big of a wyvern as you were making it out to me, because at least Injustice has a fan following that exists.
For some reason.
Like, people play that video game because they genuinely enjoy it.
They do?
They do.
Is it because of the characters?
Maybe.
Yes.
Okay, because this game system's not impressed me.
No, it's just a bad Mortal Kombat.
It is bad Mortal Kombat, and
Mortal Kombat wasn't. Yeah, Mortal Kombat's not great to begin with.
No,
it was bad. It was getting bad before it got woke.
How do you make Mortal Kombat woke?
Oh, you just make everything about racial injustice.
Yeah, you make Jax save the world by building a black Wakanda or some garbage like that.
That's the only kind of Wakanda.
That's the only
I realized it right after I said it and hoped y'all wouldn't notice it.
No, we're not going to let you forget that sort of thing. I have no idea what I'm actually supposed to be doing in this game now. Can I build some things? Anyway, so yeah, the game, it's just not fun. It's just kind of clunky and awful.
Yeah, holding block to block in a fighting game. While if this was a brand new genre nobody had heard of, it could be just fine. But we have a standard now, and it is just too uncomfortable to break muscle memory.
So it's got a button, a separate button that just
sort of. Like
a dedicated button.
You can block some things by holding back, but other things you can only block by holding down.
Well, you have to hold in. If it's like Injustice 1, you have to hold L1.
Oh no, they got rid of that for 2. Actually, I think you can do it either way.
Like it was hold L1 and you enter a block state where you all attacks will be blocked depending on if you're standing or crouching.
Yeah. So now it's hold back or hold down, not hold back for standing block or down back for crouching block. It's straight down, not down back. And that has gotten me in all sorts of trouble.
That doesn't make much sense in terms of mechanics,
No,
even as a change.
no, it really doesn't. The game, like most of the characters, I think are pretty cool. There's a couple of obscure characters in there, which is kind of nice. They've shoehorned a couple of Mortal Kombat characters in there because, of course, they have. And then there's some characters you really have to wonder, okay, I like the character, but why do they look like this? Hellboy's one of them.
Yeah, NetherRealms has that kind of art style, don't they?
Yeah,
I don't know
so everyone else looks...
You're going to need to use the visual medium for this, I think.
I'm not going to be able to wrangle that at the same time. So
I'll look for something to dump in live show chat.
Please do. So most characters look really hyper-realistic. They got this kind of high-tech armory thing for those who are actually wearing armor, but they look like they're people-shaped. Hellboy, for some reason, instead of being, kind of the big buff dude that we're all familiar with the big arm, he's still got the big arm, but for some reason he's got baby legs. And I have no idea what could have possessed anyone to do that.
I'm trying to think of what it is that you're trying to express with this.
He has
I found it.
Teeny weeny legs.
I've dropped it in the live show chat for the reference. Yes, he has tiny legs.
He has tiny baby legs.
That's very strange.
His face is also weirdly shaped, so like the costume's fine.
Well, Hellboy's face is always weirdly shaped.
It is, but not that weirdly shaped.
The art style was highly stylized.
Yeah, it's all kind of part of it, but they could have at least made him look like he fit in the same universe.
I don't know.
No, he doesn't actually. Technically, he doesn't exist in the same universe. But
so they just paid for a license?
I believe so. Some sort of crossover thingy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Batman's gone super realistic. A lot of the characters are still recognizable as themselves. For some reason, Atrocitus still has a red cat flying around. I'm not exactly sure what the deal with that is. Like, he's supposed to be the ultimate embodiment of greed. No, hang on, that's the Orange Lantern. Rage. Wrath. Something like that. Why the red cat? Supergirl looks like she wants to talk to someone's manager.
She's a Karen?
Yeah. Super Karen.
I rightly thought that was the role for Captain Marvel these days.
It is. It really is.
She doesn't look that bad, but the haircut kills
The haircut is wrong. It actually looks a lot worse in 3D in the actual game.
Yeah. Her face looks all kinds of messed up with this. Oh dear.
But I think they've got her in the pre-game cutscene where she's escaping from Krypton. Yeah, there you go. It looks awful in the actual game. But yeah, in the cutscenes pre-escape Krypton, she looks fine. Why?
Yeah.
That looks very Mass Effect.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was looking for the right term to describe it. Karen is one of them, but Mass Effect is a good one too. But yeah, she looks, aside from the facial movements, because all the characters look weird in cutscenes in this game, yeah, she looks fine. But she goes away and she comes back, whatever it is, 20-odd years later, and she looks weird. So, it's only $20 I spent on the game, but I'm debating if I should even bother with it, keeping it at that price. It's like,
I would not buy, unless I was really into the franchise and going to play it single player, I would not buy a fighting game if I didn't have friends to play with.
Yeah. The other big thing I think we probably should point out is maybe the difference, I think, between Mortal Kombat and, I suppose, to a lesser degree, Tekken and anime fighters is you look at Mortal Kombat, Injustice, and similar, everything looks the freaking same.
The stylistic consistency.
There is stylistic consistency, but more the point that everything is bleak, dreary, and characters just tend to fade into the background. Like if you play as Batman,
Blue Ninja. Yep.
Yeah. So it's hard to tell exactly what some characters are doing, and Batman's top among them. It's just, yeah, you can't pick them or pick their movements necessarily immediately from the background.
I see. Yeah, there's some games that have that problem. They just don't. Anime fighters have a very distinct advantage there, and that they can put an outline around the characters,
Yes.
and they can, even if you don't notice it on the character art itself, when they're fighting, that black outline, even if it's subtle, will help distinguish them from the background, no matter what it is.
Yeah. The other thing, which is very, very strange, and I have no idea why it exists in this game, is item or character upgrades, character equipment.
Equipment.
So instead
This
of
is
not
a
only
fighting
does
game.
yes, so it's not just cosmetic either. By the way, once you get the costumes for everyone which have the glowy bits on it, it makes it a lot easier to see what they're actually doing. But they have stat upgrades on them as well. So in a fighting game, yeah,
No wonder nobody plays this game seriously.
yeah. I have no idea how these actually affect multiplayer, if they actually apply, or if it's only for single player or certain game modes. But the fact that it exists at all is baffling. Why not just keep them cosmetic?
That's really strange.
It is. So, oh dear. So, that's a game that exists.
It reminds me a bit of the old Dragon Ball Z fighters.
Yeah.
Where you would have to equip capsules to them that did various things.
Yep.
Oh, Budokai games.
Budokai,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and you'd have to, for every character that somebody wanted to use in multiplayer, you'd have to go play the story mode and get their stupid unlock breakthrough capsule. So they had access to all the moves and couldn't use any cheesy, dumb whatevers.
But they would anyway.
Yeah, they would. But in those games, you had to even equip the special moves you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were so many different fruity things in that series that, you know, I think it made sense in that context to a certain extent. Although some of the things that didn't were like you would have to use all of your slots to use like Mecha Frieza or whatever.
Yeah,
Which is just straight out inferior to using normal Frieza.
The character that existed for a whole 5 minutes in the series.
Yeah. If you wanted the fusions, they ate like most of your bar, I think. And you had to actually do the fusion dance with a quick time input in 3.
Get it wrong and you don't fuse.
Yep.
To be fair, I feel like those games did everything that their audience wanted from them, though.
Oh, I thought Budokai 3 was amazing when it came out when I was a kid.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Even like I kept playing that for a long time. I had a great deal of fun with it. Like even when I was like in engineering school, I would still play it against friends now and again because it was just really silly.
And it had a good, strong lot of stuff to do in single player too. So
it was a really long single player mode.
Yeah.
I got really good with Mr. Satan.
Oh, why? For the memes?
Yeah, basically, I just got really good with it. Like I was able to, apart from the characters that were super broken, like you know the
short characters,
GT characters particularly.
Yeah, and the short characters.
With a power level of like if you played as like Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta or whatever, it didn't matter what you were doing. If you managed to land a couple of hits, your opponent would be out because they just did more damage than everybody else by a million times. But against any like reasonable matchup, I could usually win with Mr. Satan.
Yeah, that's all just memes. So I guess I'll probably actually will refund Injustice just because I don't think I'm actually going to go play it again. So why not?
Unless the storyline would have to be spectacular
in
order to justify keeping a game that nobody's going to play with you.
It's the same storyline they trot out every time. Superman's gone off the deep end, and now everyone's fighting.
Because reasons.
They usually provide some reasons, but usually it's because Lois is dead in some fashion.
Yeah.
I can justify keeping something like BlazBlue because it's a ridiculously long story.
Yeah.
But Western-styled fighters, I can't even imagine them ever being at the point where a story would matter in them.
No, like they try and... yeah, it never works.
And
Who
let's
knows?
not get started on the Street Fighter slideshow.
How many times, by the way, have they actually rebooted the Mortal Kombat story? Don't they do it like every game now?
They've done it at least twice, I think.
They
At
never
least.
used to. It used to be an ongoing story.
Used to be, but
Yeah.
then they rebooted it. And then they kept rebooting it. Because nobody liked it. So yeah, the other game I guess I can talk, well, I suppose my D&D game's still going, but not a whole lot really to report there. We rummaged around in a crypt and ended the session when an NPC picks out some crystals or some gems out of a sarcophagus's eye sockets and says, hey guys, are these supposed to be made of blood?
He's never seen an Indiana Jones movie, has he?
Obviously not. So, yeah, because this is an obvious prelude to a boss fight, so we're going to end the session here.
Man, I hate ending sessions right before a boss fight.
I don't think it's especially good.
Fun.
Like I like it to be in sort of like the third quarter rather than at the very start of a session.
Because at the
I
start,
feel like you need to get sort of warmed up and settle into character before you go into a big encounter, especially if you've got to have bants with the boss first.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have any banter with this one.
yeah, and it's just everybody's still in real life goofy mode
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Considering it's a goofy NPC we're keeping around. Also, by the way, your comic relief NPCs, don't just let them go around do their own thing. Try and, I don't know, bolt them to a character or something. No, the GM is going to use that comic relief NPC to trigger some event that you'd probably rather he didn't.
It sounds like your DM stuck them in there to be a conductor.
A little bit.
You mean a lightning rod?
I mean, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just somebody's going to keep that train on the train tracks.
It's because every time he's let us just do our own thing, he'll give us our options, or set out a scenario where he's run this module before and other parties have done X, Y, and Z. We go, you know what? Everyone's done X, Y, and Z, or instead of doing X, Y, and Z, we're going to go and do Q.
Yeah, if you haven't written for something, you got to get them in the direction of something you've written. So
Yeah.
I don't begrudge DMs too much.
I don't begrudge it, and the character is a lot of fun.
Yeah, for putting a conductor in. Usually I prefer they be a little more subtle than just here's a party member that's in your party and going to make sure you do something that triggers something I've written.
Yeah.
But if you can't think of anything else, I can accept it.
Yeah, because we were kind of pottering around the room because, okay, those sarcophagus are obviously very, very sus. So we're not going to go and play.
Do not say sus, please.
I know.
Please don't say that word.
Yeah, that leads on to the other game that I was going to talk about, which is Among Us.
I hate the lingo that's come out of this.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a tweet somewhere. I didn't know what it was actually referring to. I didn't know that it was an Among Us thing, but I saw a tweet where somebody said something like, I just heard somebody say the word sus out loud and now I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Saying something is sus is pretty common in Australia when something is like that.
It is.
They ruined our word!
Somebody's going to accuse you because they're a faster typer, so people just shorthanded everything to sus. Or they're suspicious to sus.
Suspicious to sus, yeah.
When they don't have proof of something.
Yeah.
But somebody's doing something weird.
As far as I'm concerned, the only value of that game is the FGO memes.
So for those who have had their head in a bucket for the last few weeks, Among Us is a werewolf-style game set on a space station.
Yeah.
That's really it in a nutshell.
You run around, you do little flash games to try and fill up a task meter, and if you manage to fill up that task meter, or throw out all the imposters before the imposters can kill you down to the number of imposters that there are, you win.
Yeah.
Or if you're an imposter, you kill somebody if you do the opposite.
Yes, exactly.
Or you win if you do the opposite. But
so, a lot of people are familiar with the werewolf theme. And like a lot of these types of game, is 100% carried by the people you play it with.
Yeah, I can't play this game with randos.
No, do not play it with randos. Just don't.
Because you have a full 2 minutes to discuss who you think the traitor is and who's lying in each meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But people just type out shortest, most acronym type speech you can imagine if you're using text chat.
Yeah.
And it's the most obnoxious thing in the world. Because I'll have like a whole paragraph typed out about why this person's good, this person's not good, this person I don't know. And by the time I've submitted that, purpose sus, and everybody's already voted me.
Exactly.
But
So
do
that's why you don't
with-
play it with randos.
So you don't have to play it with randos.
No, you don't. I play it with a group of friends. And it's a lot of fun when you play it with a group of friends. Also, voice chat.
Yes, you need voice chat for this game.
So is that your only experience with it, Ari, is playing it online with randos?
I played it with my cousin. He's in his senior year of high school, so he's been dropped into my office to go to online class in the extra desk in my office.
Oh, okay, because supposedly he won't be in anyone's way there.
So during lunch, he was playing Among Us and talked me into downloading it, so I bought it on Steam and played with him.
Yeah, it's like $5.
It would be me and him, and so I went in with him, and the people that play this game are just absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
I've not had good experiences with this game. I had one guy say, "Purpose sus. I saw him vent. I was not an imposter. I could not vent." And I told them after they'd all voted me, I'm like, all right, tell you what, guys, if I'm not an imposter, you better call an emergency meeting immediately and vote orange off the vote.
See, that's the other tactic. There's two tactics in pug games. One is get in first and accuse someone, or the other is I'm not the imposter. If I'm wrong, vote me out next.
Yeah, and they'd already voted me, so I told them, all right, you all have already voted me, but if I'm not an imposter, you need to vote for this guy because he just accused me. And he wasn't an imposter either. He just lied because.
Yeah. So, yeah, don't pug it. If you play it with a bunch of friends, though, you will still be complete idiots, but at least you'll enjoy yourself.
Well, at least, yeah, if you're playing with your friends, you have access to voice chat in the modern day.
Yeah.
So you're going
plug it into Discord.
Yeah, you're going to be talking to your friends.
Yeah.
And they have a Discord app you can run that auto mutes everybody during the
which is
normal
really
gameplay.
Nice, actually.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, that. So yeah, I've had games where I had one game I was playing the imposter. We had two imposters in the game. Other guy got caught straight away. And I was with him at the time, and I just said, "Oh, thanks. I almost got stabbed." And then I did nothing else for the rest of the game, and won. Everyone was just too busy accusing of everyone else. So all I just was, yeah, okay, I'll vote with you, and that was it.
So they just kept voting people off.
They just kept voting people off. I did nothing and won.
First, you need to shoot Merlin into space. That's what this has taught me.
Yes, always shoot Merlin into space. Merlin is always the imposter. So yeah, the memes are very, very real. Oh, hello, there's a shark there. So yeah, that's my advice. A lot of people are playing it on Twitch, and apparently it's taking out like Fortnite and League of Legends combined at the moment.
That's because you don't need any talent to play it.
No. And admittedly, when you're watching a bunch of other people play it, it's fun if they all kind of know what they're doing. Or at the very least, they're entertaining.
I know that I watched several episodes of Alpha Booster's Upper Hive games.
Yeah. Basically the same thing. So I did actually go and watch some other videos because, okay, maybe we're doing it wrong. No, we're doing it right. If you're not playing it like an idiot, then you're doing it wrong. So, yeah. Like, $5, you can't go wrong with the game. They did... no, this is probably a little bit of news, but I might as well just throw it in here. Is there were originally plans to do Among Us 2. Just, push the first one out the door and then make the sequel. They actually cancelled those plans after the ridiculous success of the base game.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is really cool. They're just going to put all the content they had planned for the sequel into the base game.
Cool.
So that's, I think, is very cool.
It's a $3 purchase, so it's also got a really low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Like even like little kids that don't have a credit card yet can make that much in the Steam marketplace with trading cards.
Yes, capitalism ho.
Yeah, capitalism how.
So, yeah, I'd say go play it, but definitely get some friends. Play it with friends. Do
I
not
have
go
no
to the
friends.
pugs.
We have us three.
Yeah,
You
you
can't
need...
play this game with 3 people.
No,
Yeah. You need at least, I would say,
at least
5.
7, I'd say, is probably the minimum
Well,
to have a decent game.
7 for 2 imposters, 5 for 1.
Yeah, we tried some 5 games once people started leaving, and they still ran out pretty quick. Because once you
Yeah.
start having a low number of people running around, it's a lot easier to keep track of what everyone's doing.
Yeah. But inevitably it just skips every game past the early phase
Yeah,
and straight to the mid game
straight
if
to the
you're at
mid-game.
5. Because the first thing that happens is 2 people are dead that were just doing tasks either off on their own or practically on their own.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a fun game. It's just nothing. It's nothing new. It's just a new spin. Well, it's a cartoony spin on something that's existed for a long time.
I like werewolf style games, but I don't get a chance to play them very much because they require a large group of friends to play.
Yeah.
I don't really like them because I'm just really bad at them. Really,
And some of them
really
get
bad at them.
complicated. Like when you get a lot of players into a werewolf style game, you can start adding more roles and more abilities to to those different roles. So you can have a lot of fun with that sort of thing and make the game as complicated as you want.
Yep.
Like I've seen like Salem where one person's a witch and there's like 50 players, so you have the Inquisitor running around and things like that. So yeah.
I love, and if you have a group of friends, you get to have the additional fun of personal grudges and biases
Yes.
for recent and past slights that work its way into the game.
Also, the memes. And my group, we have executed people solely on meme power alone before. Like,
Yeah.
we've had someone who pulled imposter like 3 times in a row. So as soon as the game started, it was like, emergency meeting. It's this person.
Were they an
Just-
imposter
We'll just
that
save time, throw him straight off the ship.
Has
Was
that
he?
even worked?
It didn't that time. He wasn't the imposter that time.
Do you have a Merlin?
We might have a Merlin. As a rule, though, I seem to get very few imposter pulls, so...
My very first game was an imposter pool, and my cousin was trying to teach me how to play. And I did not understand the controls of the game at all. I didn't know what I was doing. And it controls like a dang mobile game.
It is a mobile
On
game.
a PC. Yeah, it is. On a PC, if you have the PC version. Now, thankfully, they've added WASD support. So you can move and perform an action at the same time now.
Yeah, you've just got to go in and turn that on. So don't forget to turn that on.
Yeah. So be sure to turn that option on. Otherwise, you're literally clicking on the tablet screen to do action.
It becomes very obvious as well when you're the imposter, because what you can do is you can open up the game map and sabotage various ship systems in order to create distractions or move people around the way you want them to.
Mm-hmm.
But without the WASD support, it's very obvious when you're doing it because your character will stop moving, then a sabotage will go off, and then you'll start moving again. So if someone's watching you do that, then yeah, they kind of cotton on pretty quick.
Yeah. For some reason, my cousin was playing the free version of the game on iOS, and that has ads in it that he had to watch between games. So he had to remake the room every game because the room would break if he hosted it.
Yeah.
Lol.
Oh, that's bad.
Just buy him the legit one.
I did.
Because no, stop that. For
Like,
the sake
no,
of everyone, stop that.
Here's $3 in iTunes money. Go buy it. We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting a minute and a half between games while some brand tells you how great brand is.
Oh, hail, brand. Silence, brand. So,
That's fine.
yeah, that's my week, I guess, is... Nah, not a whole lot happening. So,
Right.
Paul, what have you been doing?
Working.
Yay!
Like, that's it. There's the main.
That's it, mine.
Work is getting worse by the day for a variety of reasons, mainly people resigning. More resignations this week. I have yet to see any sign of self-reflection from the upper management.
Have you ever?
I don't know if upper management types are capable of self-reflection.
Oh, then no.
Right, okay. I don't have much experience with it. I haven't been in the workforce all that long. I'm an academic. I operate under the default assumption of the past, decade of my experience that people think things through.
No,
Yeah,
And
sorry.
it
Now
doesn't
that
seem-
you're out in the real world, I've got some very disappointing news for you.
that ain't reality. That's academia.
It's deeply disappointing.
Not really
But,
even academia these days.
Well, it depends on where you are. I worked in an environment in academia where everything was about the science.
Actual
Like,
science.
There was not really the venue. There's not really so much of a venue for the other accoutrements that are associated with academia these days. Although I was a member of the union for one year, and all that taught me is that the union was a fundraising arm of the Labour Party. So
Oh, yay.
yeah,
Well, they always are.
Yeah, they pretty much always are.
Well, the thing is that I thought that that might be the case. I didn't think that they weren't even going to try and hide that that's their entire objective. But yeah. At any rate, so work has been rough, and it's about to get rougher by like an order of magnitude because of the number of people that are going to be leaving over the course of the next month in very important key positions, and it's going to be. By the end of October, I will be the second highest authority person on site who's full-time working.
Interesting.
And none of this grand ascent of mine over the past couple of years has been to do with my own efforts so much as the number of people above me that are leaving. So yeah, it's going to get rough.
Default.
I'm very. If the job market wasn't so bad at this point, I would probably just resign just to twist the knife.
Yeah, I can
Because
see the appeal of that.
If I were to resign as well, they would be in the position where they have to seriously consider just shutting the whole thing down, or literally flying in workers from somewhere else in the country to keep it operating.
Yeah,
because there's so few experienced staff left, and I don't understand why they don't see it's a problem. They won't tell anybody what their plan is, presuming they have one. So
they probably don't.
It's a bit rough, and I don't know how much longer I can last. A lot of other people have cracked because of either disagreements with the upper management or because they feel they're under too much work pressure because of the people that have left.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. At any rate, that meant that I was very tired for most of this week, and therefore did not do much playing video at all. I still haven't had time to sit down and attempt any of the challenge quests for Guildfest on FGO, and I probably won't get round to it. As looking like maybe tomorrow I'll look up online and see which like one or two are the easiest and just knock those over. But
how many boxes you get?
Well, I haven't had time to farm, so it's not that many.
Well, I mean,
I've opened 25 boxes,
Okay.
and I've got about 50 boxes worth of tickets.
Okay, so you have about 3 times the boxes I got. I got like 20 something, early 20s.
Yeah, so I feel like it wasn't a wasted event. I'm going to be able to level up a few servants with that, pad my QP a bit, although my QP completely bottomed out because I finally managed to 10-10-10 Scuddy due to the Aurora Steel drops from the ticket farming round this time.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of QP in those boxes though, so you should get a good chunk back.
There's about 4.5 QP per box plus about another 2 QP in gold bars. So you're looking at about 6.5 QP per lotto box, and I've got 50 more to redeem. So I'll be able to get that number up a bit and then blow it all again, I'm sure. But yeah, I haven't done much gaming other than that because of not really having the time to do so. the what else? I guess there's nothing to say about anime because we're in the doldrums between seasons where the terrible previous seasons coming to a close, and I haven't managed to watch all the way to the end of Sword Art Online. I just fell off the train again, like out of sheer boredom.
Yeah, I
and
can see that.
disgust. I might be able to just drag myself round to finishing it off, but I don't know for sure that I will, because usually it's on a Sunday night that I'll catch up on anime and I'll watch the usual ones that I watch, like the comfort food ones, the Black Clover and the Shokugeki and those. And then I'll flick through and it's like, oh, Sword Art Online. I might just go to bed. that's literally the line of thinking. Although the line of thinking, if it's too early in the evening, was like, I could just watch something else. I could rewatch something. Yeah, that's what I'll do. So I've rewatched a bunch of. I rewatched the entirety of the 3 seasons of Overlord, in the process of avoiding SAO. And I've started a rewatch of my second rewatch of FGO Babylonia in the effort to avoid watching SAO. Like, it's just SAO is a motivation to me to watch anything else. That's how dull it is. And the thing is that I see so much sincere enthusiasm for it online, and I don't comprehend. I just don't.
Does not compute.
You just gotta watch something else to remind yourself anime isn't dead. Yeah.
And the other thing, I know that most weebs will waifu practically anything.
Yes.
But I see the huge amount of figures that come out of Asuna, and I'm like, why would she be popular? Why is she so popular that she motivates the production of all of these figures? She's a total cardboard cutout. She has no personality other than to moon over Kirito. That's her only character attribute.
Yeah.
The one and only thing she does.
I mean, there's some people that like cardboard trad wife.
I mean, I guess.
With a static sword.
She's not a cardboard trad wife, though. I mean, she doesn't do anything wifely at all, ever.
Doesn't she cook? Oh, no. That's, yeah, she cooks. She sits at home, and she sits by her husband's bedside and waits for him to come home from work.
Or in this case, waits for him to wake the freak up.
Yeah, usually. I don't. But the thing is that's not really a character trait if it's something that happens exactly once across 6 seasons. So
well, we have to assume that's what she's doing the rest of the time, because she never gets any screen time unless she's doing something absolutely pants on head, stupid or ass pulley from the producer or the writer.
Well, she's always doing something ass pulley though. Like the entirety of the second arc of Elicization is driven by her basic ascension to godhood as a result in her previous.
No, she logs on with God knows on, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. Except it will blow her brains out if she actually uses it too many times. But the whole reason she's even able to do that to begin with is because somehow she's magically got the level of influence required to gain access to a super ultra top secret research site run by the government defense force.
Is that actually explained?
Everything in Asuna's life seems to be explained by her family is rich, except what they do, I'm not quite sure.
They're just rich.
I mean, it's not like what's his name. It's not like Bezos could just wander onto a military site and nobody asks who he is.
No,
not that we're aware of, anyway.
But no, the pieces all just fall into place for us, and she manages to contact somebody who's got ties to people on the rig, and then she manages to sneak in, and nobody ever seems to question anything. And you could explain it if you said, oh, well, she's a person of interest because of her involvement in Sword Art Online, therefore they let her on board. For all I know, they actually did explain it that way, and I just don't remember because I fell asleep or something. But even if they did that, there was still no good reason for why.
Yeah.
Nothing has a good reason for why in that series. It's really, really obnoxious.
Yeah, in that case, you have to wonder why they're totally letting unsupervised minors wander around a military base.
they let unsupervised minors do a lot of things,
They
and in
do.
fact, what are their names? And I can't even remember half the characters' names anyway. The sister and the actual best girl, they managed to get access to super top secret technology as well in a completely different location. So
They're not very good at this whole super top secret thing, are they?
no, they're in fact extraordinarily bad at it. But
As soon as the
yeah.
plot hears about it, everyone knows about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the thing is that nobody ever meets a stranger either in this universe. Like everybody's met before as a result of SAO. Like everybody.
Yeah.
Literally everybody.
At any rate, they also have not gone to any efforts to explain the layer of mumbo jumbo that seems to be atop or slightly underneath everything. I'm not really sure, but yeah. At any rate, most of my anime watching is predicated these days on what can I do instead of watching SAO because it's that bad. The plot for the slime story hasn't gone anywhere particularly dramatic. I'm in the 8th book now, and they're more or less just politicking at this point
Meh.
because, well, Rimuru's now a superpower, and everybody else needs to try and figure out how they're going to deal with that. But unfortunately, and this could turn into a really bad trend as the series goes on, they seem to be driving the plot by having more and more otherworlders come out of the woodwork, which could go well or it could go really badly. Because it looks like they're setting up an antagonist who is another reincarnate, which is it seems to be the rarest form of traveling to another world is to get to have an encounter with Truck-kun.
You wouldn't think that by watching any other isekai.
Yeah, it seems like the predominant method is to summon little children in such a way as to commit a war crime or something.
Yes.
Yeah, and that of course turns into a complete sociopath. Although in the 8th book they've really sort of played up the angle of like looking from other people's point of view at what Rimuru is like, and the sort of Rimuru's counterpart, I suppose, in the Empire of Lubelius, the sort of the most powerful otherworlder, is one of the students of Shizu, the one that they talk about going off on her own, and she's becoming incredibly powerful. She goes through a radical shift in the way they write her over the course of the story, and it's just sort of glossed over, and I'm not quite sure if it's just something I'm reading into it or whether it's really there, but she seems as very, very cold and ruthless when she's introduced, but she's just sort of a normal person by the place the story has gotten to now. But she has basically been the center point for a lot of other characters that have involvement with Rimuru, basically coming to the conclusion that Rimuru's sole drive in life is to generate as much luxury for himself as possible.
I mean, they wouldn't be entirely wrong.
No, in fact, they're almost entirely right. But it's sort of when they actually frame it like that, it's quite amusing because he's leveraged massive paradigm shifts in military power and technology and quality of life, and all of it is just in service of him being able to relax and eat good food. He's like the laziest demon lord in existence.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I mean that's the focal point of the major arc that follows where the anime left off is Rimuru's transition to demon lord and establishing himself as one. But yeah, where they stand in the power hierarchy is a bit ambiguous as well, and even amongst the demon lords, it's kind of unclear because there seem to be they use the term demon lord, but there seem to be two types of demon lords: ones that are sort of real demon lords, and ones that are pretenders to the title who are also very powerful but haven't really hit the big time. But it's still a fun story, and it's really every successive book that I read just rams home the point that the anime is effectively a retelling of the first arcs of the story based on the writer's experience after those arcs had already been written.
Okay.
Because like now that I'm reading the 8th book, like the 8th book, the tone in the 8th book is exactly the tone from the anime, and that's been getting closer and closer as each successive book, and we're sort of exactly there now. So yeah, the writing development has been very interesting to see. I'm not bored of it. I'm gonna keep reading it. I have plenty of books to read though. So yeah, and Ari is linking Battleground again.
We'll get to that in a moment.
I just noticed that while I was checking my pre-order status because I got a notification about it, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Audible doesn't know how to math, I guess.
I'm not sure what I will do with myself when Guildfest is over. I really, really, really want to push forward in Final Fantasy 14. I'm just gonna have to nut up and do it by myself because these other two idiots won't come with me. But
Time!
I just like every week I see somebody offhandedly mention in another video or something on YouTube like just how incredible the storyline for Shadowbringers is and that sort of thing. Like by MMO standards, apparently blows everything else on the market out of the water.
To be fair, that's not hard.
But there are a few people who are saying that there are a few people who will go as far as to say it's actually the best JRPG storyline in the past decade.
Now that's a big claim.
So yeah, I mean, even those, there haven't been that many standouts over the past 10 years, really. Like, I'm not quite so in love with Berseria as Ari is. I haven't played Trails of Cold Steel, but the most of the main. Go on.
Okay.
The most of the mainstream ones that I've seen have been mediocre. There haven't really been any showstoppers.
Yeah. The only ones I've really got into lately have been the Trail series, and I did really like Berseria, but that narrative played into everything I like about a narrative. It hit every niche I really, really like. So
you get docked like 25 points for using a church's evil trope in my book.
It's like one of the
you're
most
already
overplayed.
It's like you're already going to be struggling to hit B+, even if you do everything else perfect, if you use that trope straight without any kind of tampering.
And it also came off of, I used to love this series, man. What happened?
They went to space.
They went to space, exactly.
Well, they went to space in Berseria too. But they all go to space.
Too.
Well, I like Berseria really it wore me out. Like by the time like I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it because I did enjoy it. There were lots of things that I liked about it, and the characters were cool, and I had fun with it. Magilu was my favorite by a mile, but that last dungeon that burned me out on the game. Like I was having fun right up until that point.
That last dungeon is a nightmare, yeah.
And I literally went from full maximum enjoyment to totally burned out and I want to drop this game and not play anymore in the space of that one dungeon.
That's, yeah.
Like, can you imagine what that dungeon is like for somebody who's got a very poor sense of direction?
Oh, I don't even want... Now imagine you have to 100% the game, so you got to find all the little secrets in the dungeon.
It's worse if you find them by accident and then you have to redo a bunch of progress because you got wrecked.
And you have to fight a surprise boss.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Which happened twice.
Favorite kind of boss.
I was able to kill some of them by miracles, usually because they got stuck somewhere or because they were vulnerable to Magilu just going explosion over and over again.
You also played as Magilu.
I did. I used Magilu as my primary character, which is very, very difficult to do. Apparently, if you use like the little kid or whatever, you can just warp people. But
oh yeah, if you want.
But then you got to put up with his whining.
Laphicet doesn't whine after the second half of the story. His whole story arc is not whining and being resolved to be a man.
Okay, because he starts off whining.
Yeah, he becomes a man. He has the best crazy uncles you can imagine with Aizen and Rikuru.
And doesn't do Hope's thing where I'm going to be a man and then starts whining 5 minutes later.
No, he actually mans up and does stuff.
Yeah.
The samurai guy, what's his name? I could not control him at all.
No,
I tried several times. I could not.
heavily timing based, and you can screw up your combos mid combo easy with him, and you have to string very specific things together.
It's not just the mechanics are demanding so much as the environment does not really lend itself to that, because you've got so many moving things on the screen at once that are all trying to do their own thing and setting off particle effects. So you can barely see what you're doing half the time.
Yep.
So you already need to have committed everything successfully to muscle memory before you can start.
Yeah, you have to basically be playing him from the point you get him to really understand, especially his later stuff he gets. So he's really tough. Eisen and Velvet are easily the most fun to play, I think. But Velvet was the protagonist, so
I really enjoyed playing primarily Magilu, but that might be partly just the masochism of pushing that rock uphill.
Well, you do have a button that no sells and screws over any casters. That's
really fun. When there's lots of casters around, you become a god. You can just destroy entire groups of people in like a split second. But you kind of need that to be the case before you can do anything. Otherwise, you have to resort to explosion as a catch-all solution for everything.
Like most things, Magilu is very good when she's in her element and almost completely useless when she's not. Unless she's there to make fun of Velvet.
Also, I felt like Velvet's mechanics were essentially not that complex, but they explained them extremely poorly.
No, it's they don't at all.
I only figured out how to use her by accident. I was trying to do the stuff that the tutorial implied you were supposed to do, and none of it worked.
Yeah, the tutorial doesn't, especially because the tutorial doesn't cover her burst action very well at all, and how important it is to be sure you're very careful what you hit with it, and to keep your chain going after you've got something. None of that's explained in Velvet's tutorial. But she has a really deep and complex system if you put the time into her. But you can also just mash and swing your big scary arm around, and you'll do just fine with her if you just want to mash your way through the game. Yeah,
I think she's quite a balanced primary character in that sense. But at any rate, wandering back towards the topic that I was on, it's I hope that the Shadowbringer story is as good as everybody says it is. I already have a relatively high opinion of the way stories are told in Final Fantasy XIV. It's easily better than any other MMO on the market, and has been better than any other MMO on the market since it came out. Even as bad as some of the patches were, some of the early bits at the end of A Realm Reborn, for instance, where Ari has gotten lodged like a bit of apple between two closely set teeth that is just irritating you and you can't get rid of them, which happened the other day, if you can tell. Even in those dark times, it was better than the equivalent from the other MMOs on the market, in my opinion. And it's like the most annoying thing that can happen is that Minfilia will call you on your link shell when you're not wanting her to interrupt you.
She's incredibly fond of doing that.
That's a far cry in terms of badness from, say, Traherne.
Ugh. I'm going to take all the credit.
It's like, who are you? Were you here this entire time? Oh.
Oh, look, someone who potentially exists.
But yeah. So I'll probably just once I've got some time again, I'll probably just knuckle down and start progressing that. Of course, it could be that Guildfest will end and Halloween Rerun will open up, and then I'll go in all guns blazing there. But yeah, I'm hoping I can play some real games sometime soon. I really, really want to solve this I have no time to do anything problem. I mean, there has to be a solution, right?
Not yeah,
other people talk about having hobbies and stuff.
Yeah.
You are stuck in a work environment that is unfortunate that it's your first work environment where you've had to work your way to have any influence instead of just being able to lean on social pressure after 3 or 4 months and being able to tell people, look, you need to do this part of the job and get some of the load taken off you. this is a pretty common thing where you work with your coworkers to distribute the workload, but it sounds like you're just stuck because you don't have the resources to do that, A. And B, you have to climb a serious corporate ladder as your first job.
Like the reality of the situation is that I end up doing everything because everybody is either sufficiently higher in authority than me that they can unilaterally decide that they're going home, or they are too far below me in training to be helpful.
Yeah, or they're just bad, and you doing it yourself will be faster.
Yeah, that's often the case, and it's not necessarily even their fault in a lot of cases. Because there's so much pressure on me, I don't have time to properly instruct other people. Because realistically, that's what I'm best at, is training people. But I don't have time for it. I mean, I've taught classes before in various things when I was a postgraduate, and I have very strong technical understanding of all the stuff that we do. But that's not being used as effectively as a resource to generate other skilled workers. So it's just basically sits inside my head gathering dust while I furiously try and get all the work out of the way.
Yeah. I have all this wonderful knowledge I accrued in school. I'm not using a lick of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm using, if not my knowledge, then at least the techniques that I use to pass the knowledge. But it's just a situation where I'm sort of stuck. I feel like there's not really anything that I can do to alter the situation until things stabilize. But I don't have any strong confidence that they will because of the number of people that are leaving all the time.
Yeah, you may just have to take a risk and like stick a feeler out for another job.
I've always got feelers out for other jobs. It's just that everybody's in post lockdown madness right now. So
right,
nobody's got any money.
Yeah.
You're in a police state. I forget. My state inside the United States is lucky. We're starting to get back on track and recover. We've actually recovered pretty much fully here in Georgia because Kemp pulled us out of this crap as fast as possible.
Yeah, unfortunately, the economy is not doing so great right now, and they would not. I don't think they would hesitate to put us back into lockdown if they had another 3 cases or something show up.
Well, they almost did again the other day.
It's just as their hysterical behavior is ridiculous, and the only reason that I'm not considered an expert on the topic is because I don't agree with the narrative. Like, anybody who knows anything about PCR can tell you that the bulk of this pandemic panic is just
Hoax.
it's nonsensical. Well, it's not even a hoax because it's not deliberate. It's just a bunch of ignorant people drawing the wrong conclusion because they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, hoax.
Like,
hoax is the wrong word.
Like, it's the same thing you get, particularly in the medical profession, a lot of the time when it comes to understanding what the odds of a thing is medically. How do I explain? It's basically, PCR is a very useful tool because of its speed. It's not a useful tool because of its infallibility. And people seem to have funny ideas about that, because PCR is the primary tool used to do the tests. The tests that everybody's always talking about, testing.
Scrape the back of your skull.
The thing that nobody seems to understand is that widespread testing is a freaking terrible thing for collecting data sets. It's really bad. It's the opposite of what you want. This is broadly not comprehended. If I want to explain it simply, I would give an example. This is something New Zealand doesn't suffer from too badly, but something that the United States and the UK suffer from extremely badly. And that's generalized community testing. It's the worst thing that you can do for generating statistics. And the reason for this is basically that the only test that they're doing on community testing is PCR, because it's the quick and dirty one, right? It's the one that you stick a swab up your nose and send it off to the lab, and then you're done. So basically, the incidence of the coof, or people being identified as having the coof, is about based on UK statistics, general community testing, about 1 in 1,000. Let's say that. So if you then get a PCR test on say 10,000 people, you're expecting 10 cases, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
The thing with
Statistically.
PCR testing is that a really good PCR test has an error rate of about 0.8% false positives.
Mm-hmm.
A cheap Chinese PCR test has an unthinkably high false positive rate, and there's no way of knowing how high that's going to be.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about, a good test will be a few $100s per swab, and a cheap test will be about $5 per swab. I'll let you think about which one the government's going to use. So what you're getting really, let's say that it's a good test with about 0.8% false positive rate. You've tested 10,000 people. You're expecting, due to the estimated incidence of 1 in 1,000 people based on careful random sampling, you're expecting 10 cases, but you've got a 0.8% false positive rate. So what you actually get is 90 cases.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those will be recorded as cases, because that's the primary method of identifying them. And all those people get sent off into quarantine, regardless of whether or not they're expressing any symptoms. Amongst them, 10 out of the 90 actually have signs of having a coronavirus in them, which may or may not be the coronavirus you're looking for, and it may or may not be a current infection.
This is the thing that got me with it. It's just a coronavirus that these things test for. It's not.
Well, there is a certain amount of specificity, but it is literally unknown how specific they are. It is known that there is some specificity. Not every coronavirus will be picked up by the same test, but it is not known how specific. There's a lot of things that are not known about it. Among them is the actual false positive rate for a coronavirus test. Nobody actually knows that. But like in the example I've given, you're going to see for every 10 actual cases of somebody having a legitimate coronavirus RNA in their bloodstream, or appearing on their mucosal surfaces, basically, you're going to have another 80 who don't have it, who are now part of the caseload. Now, the thing with this is then you get things like, let's say you have 36 people in a place with no coronavirus at all, of any kind, and they're all as paranoid as Aristotele's sister and have themselves tested 3 or 4 times.
Yep. And
You're now going to generate a raft of cases of coronavirus, a cluster of cases of coronavirus in a place where there is no coronavirus, just because people are obsessively testing themselves.
Yep. And they're going to count each retest as a new case if somebody keeps testing positive.
Well, they're not going to keep testing positive because they'll just get sent to quarantine if they come out positive. But what I'm saying is that if you have a few dozen people, which is only a handful of people in the broader scheme of things, and they all have themselves tested multiple times because they're paranoid, and apparently there are Americans doing this, eventually somebody's going to turn up positive.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reaction to that false positive in that area, just generated by paranoia, is that they will then have everybody who came into contact with them tested. And then that will generate false positives, and then those people will have everybody who came into contact with them tested, and that will generate more false positives. So you can create what they call a case-demic, completely out of whole cloth, and there's no way to tell that that's the case if you're only using PCR testing, which bulk community testing is.
Yes.
So this is purely from the technical point of view of a person who uses these technologies every day, is that you are not drawing valid conclusions from things like caseload. And so what you end up doing is that the more people you test in places where they're just testing everybody willy-nilly, like the United States and the UK, it ends up looking like they've got a humongoid caseload. They've got bajillions of people all have coronavirus, more cases than anywhere else. The problem is that most of those have nothing going for them other than a single positive PCR test. A lot of those people will have no symptoms of any kind. It may not even, at the rate of testing that's taking place, it may not even be the case that it is rare for people with coronavirus to exhibit symptoms. It could be that they all exhibit symptoms. It's just that you're generating so many false positives that it looks like they aren't.
Yep.
in countries like New Zealand, we have less of a problem. I mean, we're one of those ones that's being touted overseas as having done a real good job of controlling the coronavirus. But the reality is that the only major difference that we have to places overseas is that most New Zealanders don't bother to get themselves tested, even if they've got a cold or whatever. They'll just stay home for a few days. And we don't carry out bulk community testing, generally speaking. We test people who are in hospital or who have very pronounced symptoms already. We don't test people because they feel like they need to be tested, generally. So we have less testing, therefore we have less cases. That's basically what it comes down to. It's a pandemic that seems to be largely generated by paranoia.
If you want a good example of it, I'm not going to go too deep into this because it is still ongoing, but there's actually an inquest going on in Australia at the moment into the Victoria lockdowns. And
that seems like a power grab move to me, man. I think that they just went mad with power down there. It's like, oh, we've got this excuse now. We can do everything that we want, and we'll look like heroes for it.
Oh yeah, the way it's going, I'd be very surprised if Daniel Andrews doesn't end up in jail. But yeah, some of the things that the medical experts have come out with, like, I don't actually have any qualifications to speak with as an authority on this subject, even though he's been providing government information for months. Things like that. It's frankly terrifying.
Oh, over here, yeah. I'm just having flashbacks to the exalted Dr. Fauci and him appearing in this. Wasn't it the swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated he appeared in?
I know he appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
I thought he appeared in the swimsuit edition. That might have been.
I don't think he was in the swimsuit edition, but
that might have been.
I do know he appeared on the cover. But because he's like, a national hero over there, despite the fact that he's unilaterally botched pretty much every pandemic response he's been responsible for so far in his career, for some reason everybody just assumes he's right this time, which doesn't seem very scientific to me.
Yeah, that sounds kind of like the opposite of scientific.
Never mind, he has direct cash investments in, vaccine manufacturing companies that will totally get a huge boost when they have to manufacture coronavirus vaccines.
There has been one attempt to generate a coronavirus vaccine that got through to the point of having a vaccine available for testing, and I'm fairly sure it killed most of the people they gave it to.
There's a serious issue with that.
Yeah. Because the thing is, viruses that you try and vaccinate, you need to be very, very careful to test it exhaustively before you start distributing it, because there's a high chance that you can send a body into what they call a cytokine storm, which is basically where the body starts to overreact and dispense cytokines everywhere and start attacking itself because it's undergoing an abnormal immune response, because a vaccine is essentially an abnormal type of infection. Because it's designed to behave in a certain way. And sometimes a person's going to react badly to it. And apparently there was a case where they tried to create a coronavirus vaccine a long time ago, which ended up doing some things. And a lot of people got very sick and some died as a result of it. Insufficient testing, basically. Now they're just trying to rush it out the door. I also don't understand why everybody seems to think that this is so urgent when the last two coronaviruses, nobody was rushing to destroy the economy or generate vaccines to that. Like SARS and MERS were both coronaviruses, in case anybody's forgotten, and the world didn't explode over them. They were treated as normal epidemics. And that's the other thing. Epidemiology is not a branch of microbiology. It's not a branch of microbial pathology. It's not a branch of medical pathology. It's a branch of sociology. Just because you're an epidemiologist, unless you've got another qualification, doesn't actually render you able to speak relevantly on an illness. I mean, the easiest way to explain this, epidemiologists studied the corrupted blood plague in World of Warcraft. Would you like to tell me which microorganism was responsible for that? Because that's not their field. Their field is how do people behave during a pandemic. Their field is not how do you actually, how does this microorganism actually work? Now, there are a lot that are cross-disciplinary, because usually you move into epidemiology from the pathology side, but that's not necessarily true. It might not be your specialty. Your specialty might actually be movements of people.
Yep.
So
I think of epidemiology as being like climate science, in that you're always dealing with something that hasn't happened yet, and it's basically crystal ball gazing.
yeah, you also reminded me earlier today that those Extinction Rebellion people were a thing. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, it's now been 14 months. It's been 14 months since the 14-month prediction that the world would end.
Hey, look,
So we're all dead
they
now.
were
You guys just
wrong.
haven't realized it yet.
Ah,
Yeah, Vol sent me a message about how we're all dead, and, or something. Though something terrible is going to happen. I'm like, we dead?
we did.
We're dead again.
We did.
Like,
Yeah,
because
again.
like the people in the US have died so many times over the past 4 years. It's getting ridiculous. Like, they died when Trump cut taxes. They died when Trump pulled them out of the climate accords. Like,
Seriously, Americans, stop destroying the world.
they died when net neutrality ended.
I've got to be coming up on, like, I don't know. I've got to be running out of lives, man.
I know, right?
You should have gotten the customer loyalty card. You can pick up a stamp every time you pass through the gates of death.
One more, I get a Sunday. Oh boy.
Anyway, I don't have anything to talk about for my week because I didn't do anything. So I guess I'll just leave it there.
We should take a break because we've actually done something on this show that we've never done before. We've
What?
actually learned something.
No, nobody will listen to us.
Yay!
In fact, we can expect that our account will be deleted from YouTube.
Oh, right, because narrative.
Well, yeah, and it seems like these big companies are only interested in controlling what people say these days. Like, to touch on political territory just briefly as an example, I saw the other day that if you are to tweet a video of Fox TV personality Tucker Carlson complaining about mail-in ballots, Twitter automatically generates a link on that tweet explaining that mail-in ballots are totally safe.
That's not suspect at all.
No, that's not. It's not like you're trying to control your content utterly and editorialize everything, is it?
While I think most of our leaders are mostly just power tripping, a la Stanford Prison Experiment.
That prison experiment was a hoax, by the way.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was uncovered much later that the entire thing was a hoax.
Oh well, the effect that thing was getting at is very similar to what we're seeing with these people, and is all just them power tripping, basically. The ones that are actually in control, the end game is mail-in voting.
Now, all you've got to do is switch to FedEx, and you can have your governor recalled.
Oh yeah, we found that out in what's Governor Whitmer the governor of? One of the M states. Yeah, they couldn't get the recall petition through if they used the post office, so they sent the recall petition through FedEx, and they got the 500,000. They got 200,000 more signatures they needed to recall her executive powers that they needed in a week.
That sounds super illegal.
What Whitmer did or what the post office did? Yeah, absolutely. But it's just highly suspect. We can't prove anything yet. But when they sent it through FedEx instead of the post, all of a sudden they were able to get the signatures. They could have recalled her as the governor entirely with that many, but it was a petition to recall her, just her emergency powers, because she's being one of these little tin pot dictators.
Yeah, and its manifestation in the postal service is not a patch on what's happening in the mainstream tech these days. Unfortunately, everything is totally controlled. What we really need is one of those big people that all the kiddies or all the Zoomers or all the millennials follow around to just decide that they're moving to alt tech. Like, let's say that instead of being a stooge for Spotify, Joe Rogan just decided to move to an alt tech video platform.
Yeah, what if he went to shoot or something?
And everybody would just follow him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly that platform would be too important to ignore for everybody.
and then all your content creators from YouTube start mirroring their stuff over there, and then eventually, when their higher traffic share comes from BitChute, everybody leaves YouTube.
Yeah, so it's not that one man can't change the world. It just needs to be the right person, a person with enough influence.
You just
Because
gotta.
you can generate outsized influence on the internet these days. And the while it seems like most of mainstream tech has an iron grip over people's behavior, mostly it's because people let them. It's a very fragile balance that they're precariously occupying, and it can change overnight. I mean, all you need to do is look at what's it called, MySpace.
Yeah.
Literally, all that needs to happen is a competitor that people like better needs to show up, or the people currently in charge need to screw it up so bad that the people that provide content for that platform just pack up and move.
Don't worry, we're getting towards the end of the year, so that we must be due for another one of those. What is it? YouTube Rewind or whatever?
Oh, no.
Oh,
Oh.
That's
Jeez,
gonna be-
YouTube, why?
I'm interested to see whether they can make it even cringier than last time.
I don't see how.
I didn't watch it last time. I don't.
Yeah, I
think.
didn't watch it in the end, but I learned enough about it that I knew not to go anywhere near it. Like, the first couple of rewinds were so fun. They were fun. They were celebrations of what
They were about content creators.
Exactly.
They weren't about brand.
They weren't about brand.
They didn't have Will Smith.
They didn't have Will Smith. Although, what's her name? Ms. Marvel. What's her actress name? She's a horrible person either way. Her
Brie
forced
Larson?
That's one. Thank you, Brie Larson. Her forced YouTube channel is tanking,
Yeah, I heard it is collapsing.
which is quite satisfying. I hate it when
the only way I
happens.
can tell that Brie Larson is doing anything is because for some reason quartering videos will start to appear in my feed.
Yes. It's just
He has an interesting symbiotic relationship with Brie Larson.
Yeah, I just hate companies that do that because of here is a celebrity, worship us, you sheep.
No, we're some people do worship the sheep, but most English speakers worship the shark.
Yeah. Speaking of shark, damn it. Never mind.
Yeah.
You got away.
Game.
Anyway, we're going to go on break, and my bladder won't wait any longer.
Yeah, we're in an hour and a half, folks. Here's some music. We'll be back. And we're back.
Yes.
Indeed.
So, we were ostensibly still in Balls Week when we got sidetracked by the Coof and then by other stuff.
By science.
So, you got anything else?
The only other thing is that as background noise, I put on the Sharks stream the other day, and she's really growing on me over the course of time.
She is the apex predator.
Yes, she is the apex predator. The fact that they've been calling Mitch McConnell the apex predator has just made it that much funnier for me.
I have not seen anybody on the Donald mash Gura into Mitch McConnell's seat in the Senate or something, but I would not be surprised if something like that happens fairly soon.
Yeah, but she's growing on me. She's growing on me. I didn't like her much at first, but over time, like she's a very good background character, I suppose. For whatever else I'm doing. So I've been actually quite enjoying that. Like she's managed to create a quite a charming character. It's mostly it's funny seeing the number of people that hate her because she's successful.
Yeah.
It's just, that's kind of sad, I guess, but it seems to be the case.
That's the way these things usually go.
She's just a professionally adorable person. That's her.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like the way I've heard it explained is that the Hololivers are basically they are entertainers who they make their living by being cute on stream and having fun interacting with their audience. Their audience is there to be entertained, and they are there to entertain them. Whereas your conventional ethos is just a particularly entitled low-tier sex worker.
Who wants to avoid the sex part of that job. In most cases.
Then really, where's the lie? Like that's how they act. They are a meat market. That's all that they do, and they believe that they're entitled to your time and money. Like I think that if the Hololive makes them extinct, I'll be perfectly happy with that. Everybody knows 2D is better.
Yeah. If I'm going to watch somebody, I don't want to watch some girl complain about her day-to-day life and how it's gone terrible for her and how she hates everybody and, oh, the orange man's bad. Like,
no, I want to hear today's shark fact.
Yeah, I would rather hear her be scared in auto-tune as she runs away from the monkeys. Like, she did that, by the way.
Yeah, I watched that stream continuously for like an hour, and I was feeling genuinely entertained after that hour. So
I turned it on in the background and was like, I didn't turn it off. The video stopped before I turned it off. I'm like, oh, I just listened to that whole thing.
Anyway, you've got stuff to get onto, so we'll just call an end to it there. Unless you want to rhapsodize about VTubers for another half an hour.
Not particularly. I'm not that into Gura yet. But so we'll move on to what I did this week. My week I thought was going to be a fairly easy week this week, and it started that way. Monday and Tuesday were fairly manageable, and then Wednesday hit, or rather, the end of Tuesday hit. At the end of Tuesday, I realized, oh no, tomorrow is going to be a nightmare. And I got into work, and like 3 jobs broke at the same time, the exact same time. So I was at work from 7 counting time. I got up and started driving to the post office, and then come back and then going into the actual office from 7 to about 5 that day. Just working nonstop on getting the prep work done for the submittal data and getting any quotes or smaller projects that needed doing out right away, or any billing that needed to go out or whatever. And spent all day working on this submittal data for these jobs. And then Thursday came around and I had to continue and clean that up. And I worked from 7 to 7 and got it all done just in time for the end of the week. And then Friday came around and we had a small burst of jobs come in, and I managed to get home by 3, but I was so exhausted from the working late the days before or early to normal time that I got home and just passed out. And I slept 1 time this week for a full 12-hour set. Like, I just died. I just ran out of gas. So I didn't get as much time this week to set up stuff for the political special as I would have liked to. I did get us quite a bit further in the document. There is now a Biden gaffe reference table we can use during the show. Because it was just getting too messy listing out everything Biden's done that we want to make fun of. So I just put all of his gaffes in a table, and I'm just updating it as I remember them.
I haven't looked, but dare I ask how large has that table gotten?
I've only got the big ones in there right now, but it's at least 12 entries.
Oh my.
But he did the thing about him being in the Senate for 180 years today, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, that's funny. We're working on that. We're going to try to do it next week if Vol's available, because we can't push this thing off forever. We can delay it indefinitely because stuff will happen until the actual election.
In fact,
even
the pace is likely to pick up over the course of time.
Yeah, so I think after the first week of debates and the clown show that this is going to start, if it happens or doesn't happen, is going to be the a good point to do the show. So we're going to try and get it out this coming week. If something comes up, we'll try to get it out the next week because we can delay this forever. But we need to get it done at some point. So I'll try to sit down this week and put the finishing touches on our outline, and we'll just sit down and do it with what we got. And hopefully things will go good. So that's where the progress on that is. So I played one video game in the free time I did have this week. But while I did, because I want to save it for last so I can focus on it and we can move on to the news afterwards, I listened to Peace Talks again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very glad I did. Because Peace Talks is so blatantly not a finished book that it's not even funny. It is... Somebody posted a looping GIF of multiple camera angles of a truck about to hit something in the middle of the road that'll cause it to crash, but it just loops between the camera angles and never actually crashes. And they're like, Peace Talks be like, and they post that GIF.
Yeah, that sums it up quite nicely, I think.
Yeah, there's no resolution to literally anything in the book. It's all just set up for Battleground. And so I re-listened to the whole thing and had it on the background while I was playing my game this week. And Jim Butcher put up the first 3 chapters of Battleground on his website for free as a free sample and a teaser. Now, Battleground is a 17-hour audiobook or something crazy like that. So 3 chapters ain't a whole lot, especially because Butcher breaks his chapters up into pretty diverse chunks. He has like 50-something chapters per book in some of the bigger books. So the first 3 chapters are available, so probably the first hour of the audiobook, not even the first hour. And so I read through those. And it is literally like you just kept reading the book. Like you just kept reading Peace Talks.
It's kind of what you want, I suppose.
Yeah, you just don't stop. This is not a 2-part series. This is one book chopped in 2. it could not be more apparent. Because chapter 1 of Battleground it picks up literally 5 seconds after the last one, and they're on the water beetle, off to go to what would be Act 3 of Peace Talks.
Right.
So...
yeah, just no build-up, just straight into it.
Yeah, I'm glad he did that, because holy crap, Peace Talks is not a very good book.
On its own, no.
Like, Peace Talks by itself is not even close. It's the worst Dresden Files book.
Yeah. Like,
it's really bad.
So much that just happens.
I mean, when considered as a single book.
Yeah.
Yeah. When considered as a single book, it is easily the worst book.
That's because it's half a book.
Yeah, it's because it's half a book. So, thankfully, it looks like we're just going to get the second half of that book. So it will, by nature of the way Peace Talks is, hopefully Battlegrounds can bring it up, because holy crap, Peace Talks is not well liked in the fandom as a standalone book. And they all have the same consensus that I do, is Peace Talks is a bad book.
Yeah, I've said it before, like, you read through Peace Talks, and you can tell that there's bits that happen that honestly weren't supposed to happen to, like, Act 3 or 4.
Yeah, there's some parts that were clearly shuffled in that were meant to happen much later, or were repurposed into something to fit earlier in the story and don't feel natural.
Yeah, so things kind of feel forced. There's one very notorious example of a character just popping up out of nowhere where they had no right to be.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm interested in then, what I will be interested to hear from you guys, silent spoilers, is when it's all said and done, will it have actually justified 2 books?
Yeah,
Or
that's
is it a badly edited 1 book?
That's a big yeah. I don't know at this point.
we'll have to see. But yeah, looking forward to that. Audible says it'll be out in a day for me.
Well,
It won't.
it won't.
It'll be out at 3:00 in the morning on the 29th. So that's for me. So that's 12 Pacific time. So it's Sunday at 12 o'clock now. So about 50 hours, I'll get the book.
Yeah,
50,
it sounds
51
more
hours.
like it.
That is not one day.
There's not one
That
day.
that is more than double of a day.
That is
Audible.
2 days.
And I took that screenshot when my clock still said 9:26, and I posted it in live show chat. So that is not 3 days,
We're a bookstore. We do words, not numbers.
pretty much. So yeah, looking forward to that, and I'm would definitely recommend you refresh parts of Peace Talks into your head at least from the start of the actual Peace Talks onwards, because those happen very late in the book actually. So
Yeah, the most shoehorny bits happen really late in the book.
yeah, I would refresh yourself on all that because you're going to pick right back up. But the first 3 chapters have been promising. They jump. Chapter 2 is literally a big fight scene that we were missing from Peace Talks.
Oh, good.
Like there's right into the action immediately. Like for a Dresden Files book, Peace Talks is remarkably light on the action with only 2 or 3 major fights in the whole book.
Yeah, because again, half a book.
Yeah, half a book. So right away, chapter 2, big chapter-long fight.
Yeah, the one that the whole book was teasing, I assume, or one of the ones the book was teasing.
No, this was just a random mini boss, but it's still very interesting because of what it is and how it works.
Okay.
The way you can tell whether or not it's a single book or whether it's half a book is the number of pieces of property that Harry has burned down.
Yeah, Peace Talks, it was 0, I think.
He was in one when it got blown up.
Yeah, but hang on. Yeah, okay, 1.
Well, it got a hole blown in it.
It got a hole blown in it.
But
it wasn't Harry's fault, but none of them are, technically.
Yeah.
Well, okay, except for a few of them.
This one might be Harry's fault for all we know.
You just said none of them are his fault except the ones that are.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. Looking forward to Battleground a lot because I am so glad he did not spread these out very far. This would have been the worst note to leave the fan base on.
Yeah,
with a cliffhanger like that.
The cliffhanger at the end of Changes was bad enough. And that was a genuine, proper grade A cliffhanger.
Yeah, and this is a 29-hour audiobook if you smash the 2 books together, I think.
Mm.
So it's a chonker.
It is definitely a chonker.
But yeah, looking forward to that. Definitely, I would recommend you, Fern, refresh yourself while you're driving around a few of the chapters that are later in the book. Basically, just start from the Peace Talks onward.
Yeah, I might just refresh myself on all that a little bit.
Because all that stuff, I get the feeling, is going to be really important. You literally pick right back up there.
Yeah, so it helps to know who the big bad is who makes their appearance right at the end.
Yeah. So, yeah, while I was listening to that, I wanted a game to play. So I like Supergiant Games a lot. I've loved most of their games. I wasn't a big fan of Pyre, but I really liked Bastion, and I really liked Bastion. It took a while for Bastion to grow on me. I didn't get into it right away, but I wound up really liking it. I always really liked Transistor. I fell in love with that game when I bought it on a whim when it was released the day it came out.
They do good BGM.
Yeah, they do. And so in this game, I'll talk about that in a sec. So their latest project, Hades, was originally an Epic Store exclusive. I'm like, I'm not getting that.
Yeah.
and it was early access on top of that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And so they released their finished version of the game on Steam this past week, and everybody's happy about it. And Serathis has also been playing it and was telling me things that I knew about because I was already discovering what he told me, but it still didn't make me any more comfortable to think about it. Thanks, Serathis.
Yeah, I'm gonna break your chill.
Yeah, so I'm just sitting there re-listening to Peace Talks, playing Hades, trying to finish off some prophecies by getting some upgrades that I haven't got to spawn in previous runs. And he just, oh, by the way, you could totally gay marry your cousin.
Yeah.
Why is this a thing?
Why is this a thing? Good. So that's the thing, and that drops it like a whole half letter grade to a whole letter grade immediately. But,
I mean, at least it's genuine to Greek mythology.
Yeah, they will sleep with anything.
I mean, it's also Thanatos, who you can gay romance.
Because
so
why
he's
not, I guess?
So he's an edgy scythe Bishonen.
Of course he is.
Because of course he is. But yeah, he's a thing. So Hades has another thing going against it with me personally, where it's a roguelite. I in general am not too palatable to this genre. I don't like a whole lot of
like to eat you.
It is a just yeah.
I wonder if you catch that.
It took a second. But yes, I said that backwards. Now my train of thought crashed off the rails. Where was I going? All right.
We've ruined your thoughts with grammar.
Yeah. So Hades. The way it works is you play as Zagreus, the son of Hades, who, while not portrayed as a villain, is the final boss every run. And he, instead of being, the stereotypical Western depiction of Hades, where he's the equivalent of Satan, although that has been being on the mend lately, he is instead just a workaholic businessman who just wants to run the underworld and he is clearly keeping secrets from you that he thinks is for your own good, for why you need to stay in the underworld. And you're like, screw you, Dad, I'm leaving. And so you have to bust your way out of the underworld by fighting through the layers of Hades. And at the end of every layer, you fight a boss, and halfway through, you can fight a mini-boss if you get the mini-boss to spawn.
I hope the story is actually better than you're making it sound, because it just sounds like a rebellious teen decides he hates his dad and is going to gay marry his cousin.
Well, yeah, no. But
reasons.
My character won't. You can thankfully decline any romance, so you're not forced into it.
That's good. I hate games that kind of force you into a romance option like that. Unless it's, a core part of the plot. No,
there are 3 romance options. You can waifu one of the Furies, which seems like a wonderfully stupid idea.
Yes, it is.
You can romance the aforementioned cousin, Thanatos, or you can waifu Dusa, the floating Medusa head that's a maid.
Yeah, all of these sound like awful ideas.
None of this sounds like it's going to turn out well for you.
Yeah,
I presume that's the point, or at least I hope that that was the point.
I do not know.
It's like, dude, it's a Fury, that's a really bad idea, or dude, he's your cousin, or dude, it's a disembodied head.
I mean, she's a really cute disembodied head.
Yeah, TBH, the head still sounds like the best.
Yeah,
I picked the head.
Just, dude, no. On all these options, just
teenagers
no.
make bad decisions all the time.
True.
There's so many jokes, but I'm just on the edge of making a good one with any of them.
Oh boy.
But yeah, so I picked her, and she's really cute. She gets really shy when Zagreus shows up because she admires the royalty of the Greek underworld, and she's the maid to actual royalty now. And she's so excited for her new job. And when Zagreus starts showing her attention and telling her she's doing a good job, she's like, "Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm so happy to hear from you. I gotta go," and flies away into the rafters to go run away.
Okay.
Because she's too embarrassed.
But
Ari is clearly smitten by a disembodied head.
Disembodied head waifu.
hey, of these choices, I'll take the best I can get.
Yeah.
But yeah, Meg the Fury, Megara, is her sisters are also in the game. They're all three of them are bosses, and you get one of the three each time you clear the first level. And she is your Western version of a tsundere, which is just a jerk off that slowly warms up over time.
That's how the West does tsunderes. Is they're just jerks.
Yeah, the Western tsundere is a jerk off that warms up over time.
Sometimes.
And it's more a begrudging battle respect because she's one of them warrior deathbringer types. And so after you've killed her thousands of times in your escape attempts as the first boss, she's like, you're pretty strong.
Strong.
So, and they start having more respect for each other. And the whole story is finding out what secret Hades was keeping from Zagreus for why he needs to stay in the underworld and can't leave.
So the game is just structured around your infinity attempts to get out of the underworld and progresses via that.
Yeah. Route. Yeah, and each time you progress further, all the characters in home base comment on it. All the characters that make a home there, like Orpheus and Hypnos are there. They'll talk to you. You can pet Cerberus, which is the greatest mechanic in any game.
Good, you can pet the dog.
You can pet Doggo.
We made fun of them for Call of Duty dogs, but the dog mechanic is always the best in every game.
Exactly. Can you pet the dog? Yes or no? There is no other necessary question. You also,
when you get to the 4th level, it's 5 corridors, and Cerberus is standing in front of the gate to the next level. And you can fight. It looks like you can go up and fight him right away. And then Cerberus just sticks his tongue's plural out, and starts panting at you and looks happy at you. And it says, it looks like Cerberus is hungry. I should go find him a treat. And the structure of that level is to go dig around in the 5 corridors until you find his treat to give it to him, so you don't actually have to fight Cerberus.
He is the best boy.
Because he's a good doggo.
He is the 3 best boys.
Yeah, is it best boy or is it best boys? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cerberus has a singular consciousness in this game. He just controls 3 heads.
Because that varies sometimes quite a bit.
He just likes his left head to be pet. Don't pet his other heads. They make that very clear in all the lore around him. You don't want to pet his other heads. He really doesn't like that.
You used to have a dog like that. Flip over on his back and you could rub his tummy all you'd like, but you touch his leg.
I'm about to say, you had a 3-headed dog that you can only pet one head of?
No.
If anybody was going to have a 3-headed dog, I would have expected it to be Fern.
Yeah,
he lives in Australia.
I mean, yes.
Except
it would have been a 3-headed dingo.
Yeah. You can kind of domesticate dingoes. I mean, only kind of.
Doggo. Ding doggo.
Ding doggo.
Can they hybridize with domestic dogs?
Yes. Quite happily, actually. That's where the Australian catalogue comes from. Among a lot of other things.
So, yeah. What else? So, the story is not over after you break out, because you find minor spoilers, because you don't finish the game after you beat the game once. You break out and you find your mom and you talk to her and you're like, "Hi, Mom, how's it going? And I need to ask you some questions about my history, and we need to do a whole lot of catching up, and I'm so glad to be out." And hang on a minute, this ain't right. What do you mean I can't actually live in the living world? And you get ripped back down to Hades after having a brief conversation with her, and you realize there's a whole lot more to the story of what's going on for why you're stuck in the underworld and can't leave than Hades let on. So you gotta figure that out, and by repeatedly breaking out and getting little bits of information from Persephone in the few minutes you have before you get sucked back into the underworld.
It must be the most frustrating conversation of all time.
She's always happily there in her little wheat field, just waiting for you.
Not like she's got anything better to do, I suppose.
Yep. And for some reason, she's living right on the door of Hades. That's actually explained why, but it's still really convenient.
What about mechanics?
All right, mechanics are part of the game.
Yes.
We're getting sidetracked a lot this show.
All right.
But so
I don't even know what type of game it is, so start from the beginning.
Okay, so it's a roguelike game where every time you go through, the levels are shuffled, and you have different upgrades that you acquire as you go through that drastically modify how your attacks and abilities perform as you go through it. To start the game, you have the basic quick attack on. I use a controller, so square. Special attack on triangle, which is usually a heavier attack for the weapon. and then a dash, which I have remapped to circle, and then a cast button, which is your spell attack that I have mapped to X on the PlayStation controller. And this shoots out a little bloodstone that by default you will lodge itself inside whatever enemy it hits, and you'll get the ammunition back after you kill that enemy. Later, you can get an upgrade for it that's very useful. That instead of having to retrieve it from an enemy, it will auto recharge over time. Or you can put points into the alternate version of that talent to increase your base stock of these to throw. So that's your baseline gameplay when you start every mission. And you start off with just the sword as your only weapon you can start with. Thankfully, this game lets you pick what your base moveset is with whatever weapon you want right at the gate. You pick your weapon you want to do the run with. So you have a sword, which is the sword has a quick attack, has a special attack that hits the ground, does a little AoE around you, and that's about it. It's a really simple weapon. You have the spear that I have these on my screen. I'm playing with them as I'm talking about them, so I don't forget anything. You have the spear that has a long reaching attack. You can press and hold the attack button to do an AoE around you, but you're vulnerable while you do it. You can throw the spear, call it back, and it'll hit once in front, and when you call it back, it'll hit him in the back and do bonus damage if you hit the target in the back with it. And it has a it has a dash strike that if you do it while you're dashing, it does a whole bunch of rapid hits. You have a shield that you can hit people with, throw at people like Captain America, or charge at people with. And that's it. But it has a unique gimmick where if you're holding the charge down, it'll block everything that hits you from the front and nullify the damage. You have a bow that's a bow. You can do bow things with it. You shoot arrows. You have fists that are fast weapons that don't hit very hard and are absolute total garbage until you unlock their second form that lets their special uppercut move magnetize things to you because they're so short range. And then you have the Bastion machine gun, the needle gun.
But wait, what?
The gun from Bastion that had like little bullets that you could shoot. That was it was like the bolt caster weapon, I think is what it was called.
Oh yeah, I remember it now.
It's a straight copy of that weapon.
It just
got
has
an
a
ammo count.
bit of a tonal shift.
Yeah, it's got an ammo count. You have to reload it when you run out of ammo, and you have unlimited ammo in an invisible supply. But you have to put a new magazine in every once in a while, otherwise you'll shoot in blanks, and that's not going to exactly kill a boss. And it has a grenade you can shoot that does AoE damage. So as you're going through the game, you'll get upgrades that radically modify these weapons to play totally differently every time. The most important one is the Daedalus hammer. You'll find hammers that will change one aspect of your weapon into something much better, but it will you only get 2 of these per run unless you happen to get lucky and get an anvil spawn in the very last level that'll give you 2 random changes for the price of 1. And when you find any upgrade in this game, it presents a list of 3 you can pick from. So you're not just given whatever you find. You have some choice, which makes it much more palatable. And it'll randomize 3 of them. So if you get it's really hard to get 3 that are just really bad for you at that particular moment. One of them will at least be usable whenever you get an upgrade for anything. So like you can make it so that instead of throwing the little grenade out with the gun I just mentioned, you can shoot a rocket that goes in a straight line and travels much faster. With the shield, you can add a power charge effect to it where you'll flash it once it charges to its full length. And if you release right when you're flashing, you'll do bonus damage and stuff. You can make it so that your bow will have some of its arrows auto-seek onto the last enemy you hit with it and stuff like that. And so those are the most important upgrades. The second most important upgrades are the Olympian boons you get, where various gods will send a message down from Olympus and say, hey, I attached some gifts to this, pick one. And you pick the god that you want, and they each follow a theme and have certain set mechanics. Like Ares will let you summon bladed discs around the arena whenever you dash or whenever you use your basic attack, or put a delayed big chunk of damage on the target, like a Curse of Doom effect from WoW. It's actually called Curse of Doom in this game, I think, too. But or Artemis will just straight give you critical strike benefits and buffs and effects that play off critical strike. And Demeter will let you freeze things and slow things down. And Zeus does lightning stuff because he's Zeus.
It's kind of his thing.
Yeah. So I think there's 7 of these, and they're all fairly useful or have a niche that you can work into it once you figure out how to use them. I thought Aphrodite was completely useless until I noticed that all of her abilities also give you base damage increase. So in addition to all of her effects, which are only defensive and there to mitigate mistakes, you also increase your raw base damage. So that made her a lot better when I realized that was the case. I used to think she was absolutely awful, though. So you go through the game, and as you clear each room and you finish the combat encounter or the little puzzle in the room, it's not a puzzle, it's a combat puzzle always. It's never there's no actual puzzles in the game. There's survive X amount of time in a room where that's very difficult to do. Level puzzles is what we're talking about. So the game is almost entirely combat. In fact, it is entirely combat. You get a random reward that you see a preview of when you go into the room. And almost every room branches off into more than one room where you can pick what type of rewards you want. So if you want an Olympian boon or some gold to go spend at Chiron's shop, who spawns randomly in the levels, you can pick which one you want more at that particular moment. And stuff like that. And there's plenty of little stuff all throughout all the levels that I don't have time to go into, but that's the basic gameplay. You use all the upgrades you get and try and beat all the bosses. And every time you clear it, you get a bit more of the story as your reward, and you unlock a whole bunch more stuff at base to go stick points up to and make more bars go up. And most of these bars are tied to social links.
Is there social links?
Yes. As I mentioned before, there are romance options.
Yes.
And this is where the bulk of the progress is going to come from, is from these social links. So even the Olympians have social links. So when you find a buff of theirs, you can attach a present to the message, and when it returns to the god, it carries it with it, and you get some reputation with them. So you can even social link with the gods, and they'll acknowledge that they like you more and more as they send more messages. Although it's said they're messages, but sometimes it seems like they're just straight having a conversation with Zagreus. So I don't know how message works here, or whether these are pre-recorded or what.
They're supernatural. They can do what they want.
Yeah, it's deity nonsense.
Yeah, so it's just kind of whatever. But every character you discover for the first time, you should give a nectar to, the first tier of present, so that you get their keepsake. And these keepsakes are a passive effect you can equip before you go into a dungeon, and later you can buy an upgrade that'll let you swap it between, or right after every final boss fight of a level. And the more you use it, the more it'll upgrade up to a cap to get better and better. And these passives do things like make Chiron shop items last longer if you get the Chiron one. Or every time you clear an encounter without taking damage, increase your base damage by 2%. Stuff like that. And you can pick the one you want and level it up by and you don't have to do anything special to level any of these up. You just level them up by clearing encounters. And if you really like somebody and manage to get their social link almost max, they give you a companion that's a little stuffed plushie doll of something related to them. Like I have the one for Medusa, so I'll print screen it. Drop it in the Discord. And it looks really cute. They all are like this. They're all adorable. And I'm trying to get the one from Cerberus next. And you can
wait, the doggo is a social link?
Yeah, you can social link with the doggo.
Best game.
Yeah. So you do that, and you can you get this little plushie that you can feed ambrosia to, because it's the highest tier currency, so it has to eat something. And it will let you summon the person who you ranked up into battle with you for however many encounters per escape attempt that plushie has ambrosia stuffed into it. So I only had that one at level 1, so I can summon Dusa once per escape attempt to come help me in a fight, and she'll come shoot petrifying rocks at people for the entire encounter. So what that means is right now save her till the last boss. But yeah, so that's most of the mechanics of the game. It does a lot to give you a lot of permanent progress stuff like that. It also has a talent tree that I don't really want to get into the specifics of, but you get darkness currency that's just purple droplets as you run through the dungeon, and you can take it back to the mirror and drop it in, and it'll let you put points into talent points with this darkness. And each talent has an alternate version. It usually has an offensive and a defensive version of it, and you can mix and match however you want to create whatever loadout you want of talents and level up the talents you want to take into each dungeon. And you don't start with them all unlocked; you unlock them over time. But you'll have this big full talent tree by the end with a bunch of cool effects you can mess with. So that's another way it does permanent progression. And you can rank up your weapons and unlock different forms that give them even different base abilities than the ones I mentioned before. So there's a lot of stuff the game gives you to take back and make permanent progress with, which does a lot to counter my usual problem with this type of game.
Yeah.
I do not like roguelites in general because it does not feel like you're making any progress sometimes. If you just get a string of bad runs in a row, it's enough to make me stop playing one forever.
That's my biggest criticism of it, is when you get absolutely nothing to show for your time.
Yeah, but they've provided enough stuff, and the feed is slow enough with the materials you need, but the rewards clear enough and the path obvious enough that you can easily keep going and feel like you're making progress. And then there's the stupid prophecies list, which is just there to drive OCD people insane.
Oh boy.
Which you have to collect one of every type of boon from every type of Olympian. You have to collect every type of Daedalus Hammer upgrade for every single weapon at least once. And you get really nice rewards for doing it, thankfully. But it is the most obnoxious thing in the world when you got the smoothest run in the world going and you get a Daedalus Hammer upgrade you haven't got for your prophecy yet. And it says that it puts that little faded choice icon next to it. And you have to take it because if you don't, you might not see it again. And you totally are going to wreck your build if you take that upgrade because it's going to like do something like reduce your max health.
Oh.
Oh dear.
This has happened before.
This you only need to do it once.
Yeah, at least. So yeah, I've really enjoyed my time with the game. It is a great game to turn on something else while you play. And there is a ton of dialogue for this game. And they pulled the Bastion narrator thing again.
Ooh.
But instead of him narrating constantly, there'll be narrator triggers scattered around. And Zagreus is not a silent protagonist. So Zagreus talks back to the narrator.
I see.
Oh
To
dear.
comment on what he thinks things are going like.
That can
Which
either go really well or really poorly, depending on how it's done.
Yeah, so it's infrequent enough that he talks back that it keeps it as a running joke, but without making it bad. But
Okay,
yeah, and there's narrator triggers all over the place, and there's a codex to fill out and all kinds of other stuff you can do to make progress and fill up bars. So yeah, in general, I really am enjoying the game so far. If only because it does a lot to give you permanent progress. And it focuses more on the story constantly going and gives you more incentive to keep seeing what the story's like as you repeatedly play the same levels over and over again with a different loadout each time. Thankfully, they do mix up the bosses. Like the Furies, there are 3 Furies. You fight the 3 main Furies. One of them is the last boss every time, but which one you get is random. So it does mix up every run a little bit. The second boss is the Lemian Hydra. They call him Lerny. But he has a different head that's the main head each time, so his abilities change based on the color of the heads that he has available, and the main head's abilities dictate what happens in the fight the most. So
okay.
you have
That's pretty cool.
you have that going on, and then the third boss is Theseus and Nesterios. Nesterios he does Minotaur things, but Theseus is the obnoxious one in the fight with a shield that you can only damage from the back, and he chucks a spear at you the whole fight. And when he gets to half health, he calls on a random Olympian to help him, and will always be, as far as I've noticed, it's almost always one that you have not gotten a boon from, so it means they're helping him, and they will provide him with a different buff that radically changes phase 2 of the fight every single time.
That's pretty cool.
So there's 7 variants of that fight you can get, and if you get Athena, you can be screwed with the wrong build. So always, if you want to be extra safe going into that fight, bring something that has the effect Pierce. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble.
She's going to smack some knowledge in here.
No, she's going to deflect absolutely everything you do back in your face.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she has the shield as well.
Yeah.
Also an owl.
Her keepsake is an owl.
The cute owl toy.
It increases the chance of her blessings and boons to be rare or better by 20%.
Neat.
But her gimmick is deflecting stuff. So any attack that you enchant, that you use a boon to enchant from Athena, will deflect any projectiles and have them auto track back to the caster that cast them. and parry any melee attack, so they do no damage.
Yeah, that sounds kind of broken.
It's not that broken unless you have a weapon with a dataless upgrade that makes it work. What's always broken is getting it on your dash. So whenever you dodge, you deflect everything you dash through. So everybody, I went on the Reddit to see how bad this was, and literally everybody just tries to get Athena for that one upgrade and then never touch her again. So,
all right.
So yeah, that's the gameplay of Hades and the general look of how it goes.
Where's the difficulty pitched at?
Medium, although it has, after you clear it the first time the base game is fairly difficult because you don't have any upgrades, but as you get upgrades to permanently increase your power, you'll be able to breeze through zero heat level, which is what you start at. And after you clear the game once and beat Hades and meet Persephone the first time, you unlock the Pact of Punishment and heat stuff. And on subsequent runs with the same weapon, you can take it on at a different heat level by increasing that level by adding challenges to it. So, and you get to pick the challenges you want to make it more difficult. Like you can make it so you fight all of the Furies at once.
Like in Bastion, how you could.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Those modifier thingies, yeah.
Except it's part of the progression now. So your weapons need to. Your weapon will. You can only get rewards for the next highest difficulty tier that you have not cleared after you clear a difficulty with a weapon with that same weapon. So if I clear heat rank 2 with the spear, I cannot get rewards for heat rank 3 with the fish yet. I got to get heat rank rewards at heat rank 1 and 2 with the fists before I can get to 3. So, right. And these difficulty things range from you only have 9 minutes to do each region. There are more enemies. Enemies hit harder. Chiron Shop costs more. There are 40% more enemies. The most interesting one is Extreme Measures that radically changes the boss fight of one boss in the underworld. And you can put up to 3 points in it for a whopping 7 heat. And it does. I've only put points in the first one, but it makes you fight all 3 of the Furies at once. 2 of them act as support, and you fight the main one that has the health bar, and they do all their big attacks while you fight the main one. So it really mixes it up quite a bit. So it's a decent way to do difficulty. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but I've seen worse.
Yeah, I've seen plenty worse. All right.
So yeah, that's Hades.
Sounds pretty good.
I might take a poke at it if I've got some time, but when's that going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does take quite a while to make any progress on anything, and you'll kill yourself trying to do prophecies. You'll see. Oh wait, I need to go cut half my life out to have a chance at getting this one boon I haven't gotten yet because it'll check it off on the prophecy list and give me a reward. And then you don't get it, and you just cut half your life out for nothing. So yeah, that's Hades. I might talk more about it and go into more detail about specific stuff later.
The other thing is, last thing I suppose to talk about quickly on it is the art style.
Yeah, it's Bastion style.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to mention something about the music. After you free Orpheus from being in prison because he didn't want to perform for Hades because Hades was being a douche.
As he does.
You can buy all the music in the game for one of the mid to high tier currencies in the game, and every single track in the game has its own album cover.
That's pretty cool.
And there's a ton of them, and you can't see them until you get the song, so I can't see it, but it's there.
Yeah, is the music comparable to Bastion? Because Bastion had an excellent soundtrack.
I'd say it's in the same ballpark, but I think Bastion's a little bit better.
Okay, I'll take that.
So yeah, it's a bit more upbeat than Bastion.
Yeah,
but,
Bastion's was a bit
downer. Yeah, but yeah, it's a cool game. It has made a lot of inroads into alleviating some of the problems with roguelites. I still don't like that it's a roguelite. I would rather be making all this progress in a static world where I can finish the game. But yeah, you have to clear this thing multiple times to see the true ending, and I'll try to get there. But if I start, the genre itself will kill me before I finish the game. Probably. I just don't like this genre. I like everything else about the game, but I do not like this genre of game.
Yeah, I don't mind the genre, but it's got to have some sort of permanence, and honestly, they can't take themselves too seriously.
No, you do have they're plenty okay with being funny. There's plenty of jokes in the game. Your training dummy to test out weapon abilities and skills is a training dummy named Skelly. And he is sent by a mysterious backer. And there's apparently a story to this, as I'm discovering. He has a social link. Your training dummy has a social link. And he was paid by somebody to show up and just let you beat on him, because he constantly comes back to life every time he dies.
I see.
So, and he's a joke character. Occasionally, you'll run into two Olympian boons in the same room, and you have to pick one. And the one you don't pick will get real mad with you. Yeah, and some of them are really funny, like Dionysus. He's like, "Come on, Zag, man! I thought we had a cool thing going, brah." Because he's a total frat boy in this game.
That never works out, honestly, for the person doing the picking. Remember the whole golden apple thing?
Yeah, but yeah, the game has a good sense of humor with it. There's plenty of funny stuff in here. It's not all serious.
That's good.
So yeah, I think I'll leave it there because we're going late already.
Yes. All right. We should look at some good news. And stuff happened because Tokyo Game Show happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it did. Although I think wasn't it in another diminished coronavirus capacity?
Yeah, it was. And that seems to be the theme for this year is everything's not as good as it should be.
And the coof.
Because of the coof.
Oh, the coof.
So, let's go through a couple of the quicker things. There was a big gameplay trailer for Monster Hunter Rise. It looks like more Monster Hunter, which is a good thing. And you can pet the dog.
Oh, obviously, that's the most important thing.
That is the most important thing. Can you pet the dog? What else was there? There was a bunch of little games announced, a couple of JRPGs getting either early releases or actual release dates, I should say, rather than early access.
Yep, and a few trailers that were nice. I think we got the English trailer for Cold Steel finally.
I think
Cold
so,
Steel
yeah.
4.
Didn't they announce the gajillionth Kingdom Hearts game or something?
Yeah, this is the rhythm game. They announced it a little while ago, but yeah, this is Kingdom Hearts rhythm game because reasons? The soundtrack for Kingdom Hearts consists of one song that everyone remembers, and that's it.
Isn't that licensed?
Yeah, that one was licensed. All the actual stuff they own is rather bad, except for maybe the remix of This Is Halloween. But,
It's pretty hard to mess up This Is Halloween.
Yeah. I mean, it was sung by Moogles at one time.
No, that was a totally different song.
That was totally different because copyright. I still have no idea how they got away with that. But, yeah. What have we really got to actually talk about from the thing?
I don't know. I guess I haven't seen anything that made me super excited or anything.
No, there's just most thing I'm hyped for is more Monster Hunter. That's the hype. I will always be hyped for more Monster Hunter.
I think that's the first time that I've sort of craved a developer to give me a roadmap, though, because I want to know when the next current gen Monster Hunter will be, as opposed to the Switch, which is like a tablet from 6 years ago.
Yeah, you're looking at a generational title, so whenever Gen 5 or Gen 6 comes out, which will probably be on the PS5 or the Xbox Series, whatever they're calling it.
The Sexbox.
The Sexbox.
Did Yoko Taro do anything?
I think it was a Nier thing, actually.
There was a Nier thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he announce? I didn't drop it in the news bucket, but I remember seeing it.
I did see something about more bums and really small skirts.
Yeah, he's doing that.
So yeah,
He's always doing
Yokotaro.jpg.
Yeah, that's Yoko Taro. He loves him some. He is definitely not on Team Gawain.
No, he likes the back. So yeah, it looks like it's another Nier Automata game, but I haven't seen too much on it to be able to really talk about it.
Yeah, I saw a little bit about Nier Replicant remake getting some progress on it. I think it launches sometime in April in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the West as well. I think we get it like a day later or something like that.
I'll take that. Global releases are always a good thing.
So yeah, my abruptly killed playthrough and then gave up and watched Climp's videos experience of Nier was pretty good. I really liked reading through the lore of Nier. So it'll be good to go through it again and hopefully not get stuck fishing.
Hopefully you can actually make sense of it this time.
Fish, man.
Yeah, why?
Fish.
Just stop putting random fishing minigames in everything, please.
Oh, Hades has a fishing minigame.
Why?
Just randomly you'll be wandering through and you'll see a glowy sparkle in the water and you gotta go fish.
What do you fish out of it? Lost souls?
You get hellfish and slugmas from Pokemon that are they're fire slugs and all kinds of Greek mythology underworld little stuff.
Okay, so you're fishing in lava, not the actual river Styx.
You can get a miniature Charybdis.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
It's just a whirlpool.
Miniature though.
It's just a tiny whirlpool.
Little pet whirlpool?
Yep.
Oh dear.
You can get a charp, which is a carp from Japan, but it's a charp. It has an H in it, a hard H, because it's in the underworld and we're in the West.
Right.
Fishing minigames, anyway.
Fishing minigames. Alright. What? Alright. Actual news. There's a little nugget we can quickly touch on because the Doritos Pope has to have his say.
Does he though?
No. Nobody honestly cares.
He's. I'm almost impressed by how he's managed to turn himself into like a self-styled authority when he really has no qualification for that. There's no reason why anybody should give a toss about him, but he's just somehow managed to flim-flam everybody into paying attention.
Even though Jeff Keighley clearly has tried to get this kind of attention to himself, it feels like he still is bumbled into everything he's done.
Does a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he works really, really hard behind the scenes. Maybe we're just ignorant of how much effort he actually spends into courting all of these people to support his insane projects.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely not the worst out there, but
ultimately, it's his fault that Sonic Fox got up on stage.
Yeah, I can't forgive him for that.
So yeah, Game Awards is happening on the 10th of December. It's probably going to be another self-congratulatory cringe fest.
Because they always are.
Because they always are. That's the only kind
Are they going
to get.
I think they should probably stop their guests from getting sozzled in the green room before going on stage, though. Because they're usually incoherent and it's just awkward and cringy.
I mean, it was funny when Keanu Reeves did it.
Yeah, but everything's fine when Keanu Reeves does it.
That's a point. Yeah. Just be nice if they wouldn't just keep waffling on about things that honestly nobody gives a toss about and actually award merit rather than, pretension, I guess.
I wonder if there was an era where the people who got awards at these award shows actually behaved in a semi-dignified fashion while they're on stage instead of, doing what Sonic Fox did, or
I think it's called grade
Disco
school.
Elysium people do. Like, I don't know. I'm just wondering if there was a point in history where people actually thought that maybe they should conduct themselves with some kind of dignity.
No, I'm convinced that time never happened.
For the actual award shows, no.
Yeah, award shows seem like they've always been cringy.
Yeah. Because, who cares about what the actual awards are? Let's look at, I don't know, ex-actress's bum. That's the media side of things.
Well, that's just salacious.
The media,
I was thinking more.
the actress
they're
says, I'm at an award show, I'm going to show off my bum.
Well, yes, but I was thinking more. People are just stupid and self-aggrandizing. Like, look how great I am.
Yeah.
Well, these days they get on stage and like the first thing they say is "Orange Man bad." So
Yeah, please stop that.
like nobody cares. Like your opinion is not worth anything.
You have descended upon from your ivory tower to bless us with the words "Orange Man bad."
Like, particularly for things like the Oscars, it's like your job is to do exactly as you are told and pretend to be someone you're not.
Yes.
I don't think we need to take policy advice from you.
Because we honestly do not know who you actually are, except when we do, and they turn out to be horrible people.
You're usually a pedophile or a drug addict or both.
Gwyneth Paltrow being genuinely insane. Ugh.
Is she the one that tried to sell candles that smelt like her vagina?
That's the one.
Oh yeah, that's the one that JonTron did a video on.
Yeah, and he's not the only one who's done it. And that JonTron was the only one who set up a genuine snake oil stand across the street. I got to give him mad props for that.
Oh, John, thank goodness you got away from Ego Raptor.
Is Ego Raptor still around?
Yeah, he's
He's still doing the game groups, and his Kiwi Farms thread is always off the rails because he's always doing something stupid.
That's kind of his thing.
Completely mismanaging his company to a level you wouldn't believe last time I read the thread.
Ugh.
Like, it's hilarious how incompetent of a manager he is.
Yeah, really shouldn't let performers manage themselves. It never works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for that matter, game developers, which is why we're going to tangent onto something quite interesting, which is probably everyone's probably heard about it by now. Microsoft went and omnommed ZeniMax.
Yeah. This is like the big news.
This is the big news.
This is the big news for the week. So this is a $7.5 billion deal, and that's a lot of moolah. But this does sort of make sense of the things that didn't really seem to make sense last week when we were talking about the launches of the new consoles, and it just seemed like Microsoft had nothing on offer to make their console seem like remotely credible value proposition. But basically, they having collared ZeniMax, they now control a whole bunch new of additional studios, and have therefore got on the table option to make any given one of those exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And they now have like a very, very solid and credible first party offering. I think the numbers are something like they've got like Microsoft now has 23 party studios under its first party umbrella, compared with Sony's 13.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a big number.
In a sense, it's not surprising. Microsoft is more than 10 times the size of Sony, financially speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that they must have had a plan. They've got all that money that they can use to leverage market success, and it seemed for the longest time that they weren't doing anything. But now they've got all sorts of important franchises under their aegis. So they've got Doom, and they've got Elder Scrolls, and they've got Fallout, and so on and so forth.
That's just Bethesda.
In addition to all their other, they've also got, I think, Dishonored. They've got now.
Yeah, Dishonored's in there.
It's gone down the woke rabbit hole, that one.
What else did they have? Again, this is just Bethesda. Prey, if they ever actually make another Prey.
I think Prey's probably a cursed franchise. Not because it's necessarily bad, but because those games tend to end up in development hell.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that game. I'm just remembering the load times.
Yes.
Oh, the load times killed that game so bad. It would have been a good video game, but the load times.
Well, maybe they think that now with everybody moving to solid state, they'll be able to something. I
They'll
don't
be
know.
able to something. Solid states are coming down in price, but they're still little bit costly.
But yeah, this is just gonna dramatically improve the value proposition not only of the Xbox but also the Xbox Game Pass.
Yes. I'm also actually hoping it's going to greatly improve the development attitude at Bethesda, honestly.
With an overlord to crack the whip
Yeah.
that cares about them not
Well,
pulling crap like this.
Someone who has a brand that they've already established that they need to protect, because if Bethesda becomes synonymous with Xbox after some number of years under their umbrella, Fallout 76 suddenly becomes something that's absolutely forbidden.
Yeah.
Like you cannot do this microtransaction crap anymore. You cannot release a product as half-assed and incoherent as this under our banner. You need to at least pass some minimum standard. You can't get away with your minimum deliverable product all the time.
Mm.
Because that's the thing. There's a lot of cachet associated with the name Bethesda, but Bethesda itself has more or less been dragged through the mud lately. Like Fallout is not what it once was. Elder Scrolls has sort of become a little bit of a joke.
It's
not
released
like people
literally
didn't.
on everything.
Yeah, it's not like people didn't enjoy Skyrim, but Skyrim's been released like 8 times now.
I'm actually
And-
going to quickly look this up. Hang on. Let me see.
So it's they have, if they've got someone who really needs to protect the brand, I think that will do some good. There's a lot of stuff that remains to be seen. Like nobody knows whether Starfield is going to turn out to be a good franchise or not. But like a lot of, while they have got some good stuff here, they're also going to have to put in some work to resurrect some of these. Like I said, Dishonored is in a bad place right now. They fell down the woke rabbit hole. Their most recent releases have been mediocre. As a franchise overall, even though I enjoyed them, those games are mediocre in a lot of ways. And as far as stealth games go, they're not very good. Not very good at stealth thing. Creative mechanics, I feel like they have a lot of creative mechanics in there, but it needs polishing up and it needs all the woke crap to be turfed out.
Yeah.
All
right, here we go.
Wolfenstein is the same deal. Like the most recent Wolfenstein game was apparently a steaming pile of garbage.
Yeah, it
was because
even
it was woke.
Even the woke crowd didn't like it.
Yeah, because it was bad. It was just bad.
It was just bad.
Well, the woke crowd typically they don't play video games. Period. But
yeah, they typically don't.
It was just a terrible game. It was a terrible game with a terrible story and a terrible monetization system. Everything about it was bad, categorically. So they'll have to work to resurrect that franchise if they want it. Elder Scrolls, as we mentioned, many releases of the same game. Like I saw a picture. I saw a picture online that they released over the course of 12 years. They released Daggerfall, and they released Morrowind, and they released Oblivion, and they released the Arena, they released all of the other Elder Scrolls games. They all got released within the span of 12 years, and in the succeeding 7 years or something, they just released Skyrim over and over again.
Yeah, like it's been sold on the PC, the PS3, the Xbox 360, the PC again, the PS4, the Xbox One, the Switch, Alexa, various other bits and pieces. I believe it's on.
Joke, wasn't it?
No, it's a thing.
Oh, I guess they must have had to. They had to make good on it.
It's been on Stadia, I believe it is also, or was slated to be on Stadia at one point.
Didn't they do a VR one as well?
Yep, that's the third PC release.
Oh, okay.
So it's been released on the PC 3 times.
Yeah. So yeah. So Elder Scrolls is they've got to do some work. It'll be a long time till the 6th one comes out. I mean, the 7th one. I mean, I don't know what number. I don't know. I don't know what number. I really don't know what number we're up to.
Yeah, we're up to. This is 6.
Yeah, this will be 6 because Skyrim has been. It's just keeps on coming out, so it feels like there's a lot more of them.
Yeah. At any rate, they've got to do some work there. Elder Scrolls is on ice at the moment, as far as anyone can tell. Fallout is in a bad place, a very bad place.
Very bad
Starfield is
place.
unproven. Prey is, it didn't carve out a space in the gamer consciousness. So they'll need to work on that one if they want that to turn into a brand. Evil Within, it never really made a strong name for itself.
No.
So the only one that is going good right now of the big franchises is Doom.
Yep, and that's really not Bethesda. That's id.
Yeah, but they control id now.
Yeah,
so.
it's all in there together.
Yeah.
Because they bought ZeniMax, so they have Bethesda Softworks.
I think they make a lot of people very happy though if they fire Todd Howard.
They won't fire Todd Howard.
They won't fire Todd Howard.
There's not a chance.
His survival would have been in the contract.
And even Doom is sort of a bit because the second one was so much less good than the first one, although it generated a lot of interest, which, as far from a business point of view, is enough for it to be regarded as successful, which is always the problem. So yeah, they've got a lot of powerful franchises, but a lot of them they badly need some time on the workbench. They need to have a smash hit in order to redeem them. Yeah. So because Fallout 76 is just so fresh in everyone's mind now. Like,
yeah, it's because
if you're going by headlines.
Oh yeah.
How many headlines does Fallout 76 appear in over the past couple of iterations of Fallout compared to the other games? Like 76 is just the example of a headline making game for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, normally a lot of headlines is a good thing for a game because that drives hype. But when all those headlines are negative, it's not good. Like, whoever said there's no such thing as bad publicity is wrong.
Bad publicity is bad when there is literally no good press.
Yeah, you've got to have the good press to counteract it.
You could not bribe the game journos enough, apparently, Todd.
Well, when it's not no publicity is bad publicity. Also, when you've got no reputation to maintain, then it doesn't matter so much. But the thing is that Fallout is such a storied brand with so much people already have so much invested in it, so much tied up in it, that they really can't afford the sort of damage that they dealt to themselves, and they did deal it to themselves. It was not necessary. For them to do what they did. They just chose to. They chose to monetize it out the wazoo, and they paid the price.
Yeah, they scuttled their own brand.
Yeah, and it's at the point where it doesn't matter how much better Fallout 76 might get over the course of years. They had their chance to do it properly, and they botched it.
They also had their chance to pull out and make good on the game, and they didn't. They botched it. Yeah, they didn't. No Man's Sky this.
Instead of all that, they just plunged us into this crippling worldwide canvas shortage.
The lack of canvas is really why there is a giant virus everywhere.
It's totally the fault of the lack of canvas.
It's the lack of canvas is just as real as the woo flip.
Dear. All right. So this one, I think we're just going to have to wait and see, but honestly, I'm kind of positive about it. I'm going to remain cautiously positive.
Something that sort of seemed to inspire Mark Kern to bring up over the course of the week. I didn't follow the conversation, but he happened to mention that, Gabe Newell is going to retire at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And that will probably end up putting Steam on the market. Who's going to buy them?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be
that's a scary thought, actually.
Because the thing is, if Microsoft should buy them and they are the strongest player who could do so, that's basically going to turn Microsoft into a gaming super monopoly.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure. Would a sale of Steam actually be allowed at this point?
I think you're going to start to cause antitrust problems. You're going to start to, because they control too many things through Steam. If they own Steam as a platform, then they are providing yet another valve, no pun intended, for the outlet of people's content.
Mm.
Yeah, they will effectively control the distribution methods for the entirety of PC that isn't good old games or the Epic Game Store.
Yeah, and even then, both of them are tie into Steam as well.
Yeah. And they
and the thing is, it's an idea that would be so easy to sell to players because people hate additional launches. If Xbox Game Pass just baked into Steam and you had something on Xbox Game Pass that means you've got it on Steam,
yes,
they could make it so easy for people to just not need to worry about that kind of thing. Oh, I pay a sub and I can just keep using Steam and I'll have access to everything on Xbox Game Pass. Can you imagine how easy it would be to sell that idea to people?
Yeah, it would take nothing.
Yeah, a ton of people would be, even if the initial reaction because it's Microsoft was negative, you could sell that to the market real easy.
Yeah, it would
because it's super convenient. Like that's why people give Steam so much money, is it because it provided convenience greater than piracy?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. What other bits of news does we has?
Let's see here. No, we talked about that already. We talked about that during your week, Fern.
Yes, we did. That's the Among Us bit.
I did not.
Dreamhaven.
Yeah, this is a thing. Mike Morehome's apparently still in the industry.
Yeah, he's come out and revealed all the...
He left the industry for a while because he was pretty much pooped.
Yeah.
And so basically, to get the initial part out of the way, he's founding a games company called Dreamhaven, which consists of 2 studios, Moonshot and what's the other one?
The other one. Let me see. Where's the freaking article?
Secret Door.
That's the one.
So he's founded this new company, and he's got a conspicuous number of high tier ex-Blizzard alumni, and word is that this is causing some pretty crippling brain drain at Blizzard right now, because a lot of their old hands are like, hey, our old boss who we actually liked is kind of still doing stuff. Maybe we should go work for him instead.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't get paid so cripplingly small amount of money and also be oppressed by Blizzacti's demands. At any rate, so he started this project. He is fabulously wealthy, so he can bankroll this in the short term in order to get things off the ground.
Yeah, I'm glad for this. Instead of retiring to his own private island with his ridiculous amount of money, he seems like he wants to get the band back together.
Yeah. Now the thing that I thought was interesting about this was that he's I don't know that he's consciously trying to get the band back together, but the band is coalescing back together.
The band is coming back.
He left the scene a while back, and he's like, I need to disconnect from the whole Blizzard thing, and I need to, spend some time recouping, because he was basically seemed to have burned out, more or less. This was quite some months ago. It's hard to tell the passage of time, but especially in 2020, where every month seems to take about 3 years. Ugh. But there were a lot of high-profile people who bowed out of Blizzard either noisily or quietly around the same sort of time, roughly, and a lot of those have now appeared in Dreamhaven, and it makes me think that something big must have gone down behind the scenes there to burn out so many old hands at once. So, and we really haven't seen anything. We haven't seen any strong offerings from Blizzard, let's just say. Or Blizzard Activision generally. Like they have botched pretty much everything that they've done recently, in a big way or a small way, in no small part probably due to their obsessive focus on esports and their complete incompetence with actually handling esports, because apparently they've just brought in a new guy to manage their esports division.
But Hong Kong.
He's rather than hiring someone who knows anything about new media, they hired the guy who used to be the head of MLB.
Ugh.
Like, why do they think this is a good idea? I don't know. However, that's the basket in which they're throwing all the eggs from a great distance at high speed. Which is not well for anyone. But Blizzard have not done very well. Overwatch 2, where is it?
Why
They
is
every
the
time
more
they
point?
every well they why is it is because they are obsessed with esports, right?
Mm.
And you, in order to keep people playing a video, they need to be offered, not people need to be offered novelty. So you need to keep updating your product. That's the ultimate weakness of esports as a concept, is that they tend to move on. People
Yeah.
tend to move on, and so the game needs to move on as well. Like footy's never going to do that. You play a game of rugby roughly the same way you played a game of rugby 100 years ago. So I guess that's a New Zealand example. I don't think they play rugby in America very much.
Well, if
But
you want a better example of an American version, they tried to change NASCAR and their viewership tanked.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
tried
that
to
happens.
they throw in a turning the other direction or
You
something.
turn right sometimes.
They put in brakes
Gas.
where the drivers don't have to drive continuously. So the whole point of the sport, being able to drive well continuously for a long period of time, is no longer the sport.
Isn't it supposed to be an endurance test though?
Yes.
Like by definition.
The level of stamina it requires out of you is the raw physical part of it and what makes it a sport.
Yeah,
yes.
That sounds about right.
But they decided, no, we don't need that anymore.
No, we don't
and
need
their
that.
viewers, they're still with that change, by the way. They haven't undone it. But yeah, that's how good it goes when you try to radically change a sport.
This is why people watch WRC instead in the rest of the world. But when it comes to endurance races, but at any rate, where I'm going with this is that Blizzard hasn't done anything very much. They culled Bungie from their stable because they didn't seem to have the money they needed to manage all of that chaos. And World of Warcraft has done really terribly over the past expansion, and Shadowlands, while it has some signs
Bad
of
for you.
improvement,
Bad for you.
I thank you for your contribution, Aristeal. I do need to hear it now and again. But while it does have some signs of improvement in various places, it's still very obviously shackled to Blizzard's stubbornness. Because there are very clear things that would benefit from certain changes that they are refusing to make, as far as anybody can tell, entirely on principle.
There is the high possibility that Shadowlands could be the last WoW expansion if it does poorly.
Yeah, they're going to end up having to kill that product, or at least by which I mean they'll put it into maintenance and slow development if they manage to botch this seriously. Yeah. And ultimately, the reason why it's like that is that they always try and rebuild the game from scratch. Like conceptually, Final Fantasy XIV hasn't changed since A Realm Reborn.
No.
Everything is more or less the same. They just add more and more content, and it's grown really, really solidly over its tenure on the market. World of Warcraft, they create a new random system every time they start an expansion, and in some cases, like the most recent expansion, every patch they'll introduce a new system of like temporarily be used to increase the power level.
And every time their player base tells them, "We don't want this."
Yeah, they just want good content to play. They don't want their character to be completely ransacked every patch.
Yeah.
But they're locked in that way of doing things, and it's dragging them down. And you know, the Activision is basically trading on Call of Duty at this point.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, what else do they have that is a big money maker? And Call of Duty is a spectacular maker of money. But again, they're really, really pushing that the esports angle hard. And I've heard that they've had serious issues during COOF time because of attempting to play online, and that doesn't work very well at all. So you end up with disconnects and things like that, and so basically people don't really feel like it was executed very well, generally speaking. Honestly, everything that Blizzard Activision have done lately has devolved into disaster in every respect, except for the fact that Call of Duty keeps coining money.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still making a lot of money because they're the sort of company that will. They've got a huge amount of reliable money coming in on the regular, and that's how they're keeping themselves above water. But contrasting to the aim of Dreamhaven, which is to basically do the things that a company like BlizzActive would never let a developer do. So all of those people who are being strangulated under the oppressive yoke of the Blizz Activision development strategy, which is to do exactly what the market is currently trending on at any given point in time, they are going to, be looking at operating the way indies typically do, which is to experiment and then, make that pitch to the market and see where it goes. I mean, they'll have to gather real funding if they want to do big projects, and they're ambitious people, so they probably will. But the market is in dire need of new blood right now.
Yeah.
Especially if you look at something like MMOs. Like MMOs, there are no MMOs coming out of note, in my opinion.
No,
Like,
there's
No.
there's things like Crowfall, but I mean, Serathis said that he's not impressed by Crowfall. There's whatchamacallit, New World, the Amazon MMO. Doesn't look particularly impressive to me either.
Nah.
Many of those projects have potential, but most MMOs do when they're still projects, right?
Yeah.
It's when they enter the market, they've got to prove themselves. And if you look at Blizzard's other big thing, RTSs. When was the last time somebody made an RTS?
When was the last?
Last one was of note was StarCraft 2.
Remember Blizzard's last big RTS, the Warcraft 3 Reforged? Oh man,
that was a situation where they literally managed to destroy an existing community by accident instead of deliberately, like usually.
Quite thoroughly too.
But I mean, if you look at StarCraft 2 and you compare that with the success of StarCraft, it's a joke.
Yeah, it's nothing.
And
it's because they tried to cram esports into it again.
Yeah, it's because of esports, because they were control freaks. They obsessed over controlling every aspect of how people would play it. So any grassroots stuff that came up would get basically executed in sight of everybody. As an example, don't you dare. And the same thing happened with Overwatch. That's why Overwatch is dead now, is that there was no grassroots support for it, because they killed any grassroots support for it on purpose, because they wanted absolute control.
Yeah, for the point of degree for control, let's not forget that they actually wrote into their... they didn't want Dota to happen again, so they wrote into their terms of service that any mod content is still theirs. Yeah. So no one could make a new Dota.
Yeah, nobody's going to bother with that. They don't want to have to face down Blizzard lawyers because they had a cool idea.
Especially when Blizzard sweeps in and say, "Oh, this is ours. We totally made this."
Yeah, basically everything comes down to them being like insane control freaks who are completely past their prime. So it makes sense for those who were within Blizzard who have the the drive and the creative energy which caused Blizzard to become big to begin with, would want the freedom to stretch those wings again, and hopefully Morheim can provide that for them.
We shall see. We shall see.
Yeah. I mean, just based on how he performs on Twitter and his history at Blizzard, I have enough faith that he'll do something. Yeah,
and he's probably a lot more cognizant about things like crunch now as well. I mean, I'm not under the naive impression a lot of people seem to be that you can eliminate crunch. Like, that's not a thing.
No, it's
when
not
a project needs to get done, doesn't matter what your industry, you got to knuckle down and meet that deadline. Every industry. It's true everywhere. But back when Blizzard used to crunch, back in the old days, it was fashionable because they were that that cool developer, the ones who put in tons and tons of effort and they put out a blockbuster game every time. It's always a blockbuster. There's Diablo, StarCraft, Warcraft, World of Warcraft. They always put out the top-notch content, and people respected the crunch, and the crunch was cool because of that. So even though the crunch has always been part of Blizzard culture, what it means now has changed, because what it came to mean was that Blizzard could just squeeze as many man-hours as they wanted out of their stuff.
Yeah.
For, bargain basement prices, because they had the hangover of that cool impression that they left on people, because everybody wanted to work at Blizzard. All the passionate people who were inspired by Blizzard games went there, and they found that they were working for minimum wage or whatever.
Treat them like dirt.
So yeah, hopefully, having seen that cycle play out, Moorheim will be more conscious of the fact that part of the image needs to be controlled now. You can't let crunch run away, where crunch is the norm and nobody ever stops crunching.
Yeah. And that's how you lose employees.
Well, that's how you get bad products too. It's like if
It is how
everybody's
you
in
get bad products.
crunch mode all the time and not working just to get what's already planned and worked on done, they're too burnt out to do anything good.
And they go around the bend. Like the number one reason for people, the one of the top reasons for people leaving Blizzard, because there's lots of reasons for leaving Blizzard. Well, the top reasons that I hear are the pay is miserable, the conditions are terrible, and I had a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
And it's usually because they've just been pushed too hard.
It is California. So I always take mental breakdown claims from Californians with the biggest grain of salt in the world.
Well, the thing is that these are the Californians that actually have to work.
That may be true, but they're still Californians.
And a lot of them will have moved to California specifically because of that Blizzard dream. And they're living in their van in the parking lot.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And that's the thing about not just Blizzard particularly, but game developers is the big ones tend to take advantage of that dream. Like, it is still, to a degree, being a game developer is the ideal job for a lot of kids.
Yeah, well, they don't know. They don't know what that actually entails,
and they don't know what it actually entails. So
you don't actually get to be a rock star. Like if you start out thinking you're going to be a rock star as a game developing studio, you end up like Romero.
Yeah. If you want to be a rock star, you go indie and just hope for lightning to strike. That's probably the most likely way of it happening. But yeah, it's not something that you're actually going to be able to aim and get. Unless you go into marketing or something. But then you're not a game developer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a corporate stooge. Enjoy. So yeah,
I remember seeing an email. Somebody, not email, a tweet. Somebody sent a tweet to Romero. What's the date on it? September 18th. And he said, "Hey Romero, what about a Daikatana VR remake?"
Oh,
and
jeez.
Romero replied, "The world has been through enough in 2020."
Thank you, Ramiro. We make fun of you, but at least he can laugh at himself. Alright, what's next?
I don't really have anything else on the news thing, but I didn't notice a whole lot that jumped out at me this week, other than a few minor announcements at TGS that we already covered.
Alright, in that case, shall we start wrapping up? Because we are kind of at time.
I feel like I'm forgetting something, but
I don't know what you're forgetting.
Yeah, it's been bugging me.
Oh yeah, Amazon Luna. That's the thing we're missing.
No, nobody needs it.
Nobody needs it. Like, it's Stadia. That sounds like a great idea.
The thing that bugged me the most was their reveal picture had Cold Steel 3 right next to Plague Tale Innocence.
Yeah, that's kind of yucky. Get that away.
Like, don't put my Cold Steel near that.
It's got rats and horrible diseases and depression.
Isn't that new Vanillaware game coming out around now?
Maybe. It should be soonish. I think we saw a release something for it. Let's see.
I don't even know what genre it is.
I don't either. The Robo one?
Yeah.
It didn't get owned by the
it came out in Japan last year. The worldwide release was
last week.
Yeah, last week.
Yeah, so I must have seen the worldwide launch trailer. Yeah, it's Vanillaware, so I probably want to give it a look at some point. I like Vanillaware stuff.
The art is always gorgeous.
They're also on Team Gawain.
I think that they're not just on Team Gawain.
I think they play for both teams in a manner of speaking.
All right, let us get out of here then, shall we?
All right, folks.
So,
I think we're done. We'll see y'all next week, I guess. Any closing comments before we go?
hopefully we can actually do something this week.
Yeah. I don't know why I ran out of energy in the second half of the show. Sorry about that, guys. I just kind of died.
Yeah, you
What?
did.
Why are they resurrecting the Equinox franchise?
Equinox. Okay.
I remember I played that game from start to finish, and it came free with the family computer. That was the sequel to I can't remember what the first one was called. But did you guys ever play Equinox?
No.
No.
It's a submarine game.
It
Like-
does sound kind of familiar.
It's set in like a post-apocalyptic future where everybody lives under the sea.
Under dust.
Under the sea. And not a weird Bruce Campbell movie.
It plays a bit like Descent would be if Descent was underwater instead of in a corridor.
That does sound a lot very familiar.
This name sounds familiar, but I can't put a picture of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of the. I guess it's a game I may have played at one point, but also I remember Descent more than Equinox, if that's the case. I also remember Descent giving me a headache.
Yep. Alrighty.
It is what it did. All right.
I guess we're done then, folks. We'll see you next week, and we may have the political show up next week, and that we'll see how that goes. I don't think me and Vol will have to talk about how we're going to distribute this thing. Look for updates in the live show chat and the politics board of the Discord for what's going on with that. We're probably going to have to do some distribution shenanigans because of the way politics currently is and works on YouTube. So
Agree or die.
It'll likely get our channel deleted. So
yeah, we may have to stick it on a side channel or something. We'll figure it out when we get there. So we'll see y'all then, folks. Sayonara. Bye-bye.